Chapter 5:16. A beautiful figure appeared in the sky. Her face was as cold as ice, and she was extremely beautiful. However, unlike before, her blue and white dress was gone. In its place was a brand new, fiery red dress. The hem of her dress was burning like a flame. The fiery red dress, coupled with her cold face, added a different temperament. Miss. When they saw the beautiful figure in the sky, the soldiers of the fire realm were stunned. Their eyes flashed with astonishment. Wasn't their Miss in seclusion? Why did she come out? Could it be this young man was the son-in-law of the fire realm? They were stunned for a moment. The soldiers of the fire realm came to their senses. They quickly bowed to Luo Wuqing and said respectfully, "Greetings, Miss." Luo Wuqing nodded coldly. However, before she could say anything, a familiar aura appeared in front of her. That familiar face appeared in front of her. Then, a big hand reached out and pulled her into an embrace. Honey, did you not take good care of your skin? Why is your skin so dry? Yes. After being reminded by you, I remember that I haven't taken good care of my skin for a long time. An old voice, with a hint of laughter, rang in Ning Tian's ears. Ning Tian was stunned. The corner of his mouth twitched. He didn't know when he was hugging the old man, Xingyang God. Kid, this is called an eye for an eye. Xingyang God looked at Ning Tian, whose face had darkened. His face was full of smiles. Back in the heavenly soul realm, this kid didn't let him hug his precious granddaughter. Then, this kid shouldn't even think about hugging her. Although this kid was from the heavenly palace, but he was still unhappy that his precious granddaughter had been taken by a pig. Hearing this, Ning Tian's mouth twitched. This old man, at the side, Luo Wuqing looked at the old and young pair, and shook her head helplessly. Then, she looked at Ning Tian. Although her voice was cold, there was a trace of gentleness in her words. Husband, even if you want to hug me now, there's nothing you can do. I'm just an ethereal clone right now. My main body is still cultivating. After that, she hesitated for a moment, then looked at Ning Tian and said, "Good girl. When I come out of seclusion, I'll let you hug me again." Hearing this, crack. He seemed to have heard the sound of an old man's heart breaking. The surrounding soldiers of the fire domain widened their eyes in disbelief. F***ck. What was going on? The young miss, who had always been cold, actually revealed such a side to this young man. Although the first miss had only recently returned to the fire domain, her coldness and heartlessness had left a deep impression on the people of the fire domain. They had thought that even her husband would not be able to change the first miss like this. Sure. Hearing this, the haze on Ning Tian's face disappeared. He immediately raised his eyebrows proudly at the divine sun god. "Grandfather, I'm sorry. It seems that my wife dotes on me more." Creak. Hearing this, the divine sun god gnashed his old teeth so hard that they creaked. "This little brat. Don't call me grandfather." "Okay, grandfather." "Damn you." "Okay, grandfather." "Hey, you little brat, you're so shameless." "Grandfather, you're such a sweet talker. If you know how to praise people, then praise them more. Your handsome grandson-in-law won't mind." Looking at Ning Tian and the divine sun god, who were acting like two children, Luo Wuqing helplessly held her forehead. Her beautiful eyes were fixed on Ning Tian, full of affection and longing. Although 2 years was like the blink of an eye for a cultivator. But she didn't know why. Her longing for Ning Tian increased day by day. Now that she saw Ning Tian, the longing in her heart was like a burning flame. "Husband." Luo Wuqing took a deep breath, then looked at Ning Tian and said slowly, "Wait for me in Luo City. When I come out, I'll go and find you." "Okay." Ning Tian nodded and silently watched Luo Wuqing's ethereal avatar disappear. After it dissipated, the old Xingyang god came over with a kind smile on his face. He looked at Ning Tian and said, my grandson-in-law, I'm so happy to see you in the Blaze realm. The knife in my hand. Oh no, the poison in my hand. I almost dropped my gift. The divine sun god's face was full of confusion. He squeezed out a smile and took out a small jade bottle. Ning Tian looked over. In the jade bottle, hey! Old man, if you want to poison me, at least change to another poison. Do you only have the sky poison pill? This thing, anyone who eats it will say it's good. You eat. The divine sun god looked at Ning Tian with a smile. However, before he could finish, the small jade bottle in his hand was taken by Ning Tian. He said to himself, "This is good stuff. It's very nutritious." After that, he opened the jade bottle and took out the sky poison pill. He raised his head and swallowed it in one go. "Oh, just as grandfather said, it's good stuff," Ning Tian said with a smile. "Damn! He ate it." Xingyang Divine God was silent for a long time. His initial ecstasy had turned into panic. Cold sweat was dripping from his forehead. He had long been panicking. "It's over. It's over. This brat has really eaten it. It's over, it's over. Then how am I going to face my precious granddaughter?" He was sweating profusely. Although he was very unhappy that this brat had taken away his precious granddaughter, he knew that his precious granddaughter had long loved this brat to death. Sigh. Since things have come to this, so be it if I die. The divine sun god sighed heartlessly and looked at Ning Tian. "Brat, you don't have much time left. Do you have any other wishes? I'll satisfy you." "Oh, I want a divine level martial skill and some divine medicine. I don't ask for much. Just a few 100 million divine weapons will do," Ning Tian said with a smile. "You'd better be on your way." Although the divine sun god wanted to say this, he thought it would be better to let this brat go on his way so that his precious granddaughter would not be sad. Hence, he endured the pain and gave some of his treasures to Ning Tian. "All right, I've given you what you want. Brat, you can't blame me if you die. You're the one who ate it." Sacred Sun Empyrean God looked at the smiling Ning Tian with a pained expression. "Die? I'm alive and well. Why should I die? Don't you think so, Grandpa?" Ning Tian looked at the divine sun god with a smile. As he spoke, he put the treasures that the divine sun god had given him into his storage ring. The divine sun god was stunned for a moment before he reacted. Rumor has it that in the heavenly palace, there's the strongest alchemist in the Tianxian continent. He's proficient in all kinds of elixirs and poisons. He's known as the alchemy saint, he muttered to himself. The corner of his mouth twitched. He gritted his teeth and looked at Ning Tian. "Isn't this my 9th senior sister? So you know her, Grandpa?" Ning Tian's lips curled into a smile. F*ck brat, you set me up? The corner of the divine sun god's mouth twitched. "No, no, no. How would I dare to set you up? After all, you gave it to me of your own accord. How can you say that I set you up?" Ning Tian looked at the divine sun god with a smile. He did not set the divine sun god up. The ancestral master was just a kind and good person. What bad intentions could he have? After all, he had been telling the truth from the beginning. To him, the heavenly poison pill was a fatal poison. However, it was now a great supplement. The poison gas had accumulated in his body. This meant that he could control the poison gas. "By the way, Grandpa, if you have more of these things in the future, you must give me 100 million more." Ning Tian looked at the divine sun god with a serious expression. "Then I'll give you some elixirs that will make you unable to stand up." "That won't do. I still want to give birth to many great-grandchildren with my wife." F*ck, shut up, you brat! The divine sun god gritted his teeth and flew toward Luo City. "That won't do. Grandpa, do you prefer great-grandchildren or great-granddaughters?" Seeing this, Ning Tian smiled and followed the divine sun god. Behind him, Little Lion and the others who could control the void ship on their own followed silently. "I don't like either." "Oh? Then I'll give birth to a few for you." F*ck. "Ah." The powerless roar of the divine sun god came from the endless fire realm, which instantly shocked many of the powerhouses in the fire realm. They all looked in the direction of Luo City, wondering who could have provoked such a powerhouse to lose his composure. Luo City. In the main hall of Luo City. By the way, Grandpa, my wife's surname is Luo. So is yours. Why does she call you Grandpa? The two of them entered the main hall. Ning Tian followed behind the divine sun god. He seemed to have thought of something and could not help but ask. Hearing this, the divine sun god frowned. After a moment of silence, he said calmly, "Her father married into the Luo family. Their children will naturally follow the Luo family's surname." Son-in-law? Ning Tian was shocked. He did not expect that his father-in-law had married into the Luo family. Then, before Ning Tian could finish his sentence, the divine sun god glared at Ning Tian and warned him, "You brat, don't ask my precious granddaughter about her parents. It wasn't easy for her to walk out of that shadow. Do you understand?" "All right." Hearing this, Ning Tian spread his hands. He naturally did not want to talk about Luo Wuqing's sore spot, unless his wife was willing to talk to him about it. "That's right. You brat, do you want to marry into the Luo family too?" The divine sun god's eyes narrowed into slits as he looked at Ning Tian. His words were full of temptation. "Marry into the Luo family and the entire fire territory will be yours in the future. No. The Ning family cannot be without descendants. Moreover, even if I don't marry into the Luo family, the fire territory will be mine in the future," Ning Tian said with a straight face. The divine sun god. "Anyway, you will hand over the fire territory to my wife in the future. My wife loves me so much. What's hers is mine, and what's mine is hers. Is there a difference?" Ning Tian said quietly. "Damn you!" The divine sun god ate a mouthful of dog food and could not refute. "You brat, you really don't treat yourself as an outsider." "Yes, grandfather," Ning Tian affirmed. F***ck, you brat. You are really shameless." The divine sun god gritted his teeth. "What is face? Can it be eaten?" The divine sun god took a deep breath. He had already decided to ignore this brat. Not only was he infuriating, he was also super shameless. If this continued, the divine sun god would not be able to control the chaos force in his body and smash it on Ning Tian's face. At this moment in the main hall, 3 youths walked in. Each of them looked handsome and elegant. When they saw the divine sun god, they immediately bowed. "Greetings, territorial lord." The 3 of them bowed. "Haha, so it is the younger generation of the Tianfeng family?" The divine sun god laughed and then looked at Ning Tian. "Brat, this is the outstanding youth representative of the endless fire territory. At such a young age, he has already reached the ancestor god realm in 800 years. "Oh," Ning Tian replied with an "oh." "At such a young age, he is already so talented," the divine sun god continued. However, before he could finish, he suddenly realized something and changed his words. "At such a young age, he has already comprehended the Tao. No, at such a young age, forget it." His words were stuck on the tip of his tongue several times because he saw Ning Tian's indifferent expression. He thought about it carefully. Damn it, no matter how he compared himself to this brat, the outstanding youths of the endless fire territory, like him, were nothing in front of Ning Tian. Damn it. This is so infuriating. Hence, he gave the 3 of them a look. Seeing this, the 3 youths of the Tianfeng family immediately reacted. The leading youth chuckled and glanced at Ning Tian. Then, he looked at the divine sun god and said with a smile, "Domain Lord, is this fellow Taoist an honored guest? I don't think I have seen him before." "Oh, this brat?" The divine sun god glanced at Ning Tian and said, "He is my precious granddaughter's man." "What? Young mistress's man?" Hearing this, the 3 youths of the Tianfeng family widened their eyes. Their expressions were as exaggerated as they could be. Seeing this, Ning Tian could not help but shake his head helplessly. He could not help but complain in his heart. Grandfather, you should at least find a few people with better acting skills to test me. From the moment the divine sun god gave him a look, he had already seen through it. You? What gives you the right? You are just a trash. One of the youths looked at Ning Tian and tried his best to make himself look ferocious. However, before he could finish, the divine sun god glared at him. Ahem, he coughed and quickly changed his words. Trash. Trash. The youth said trash twice in a row, but he still could not think of a way to turn the situation around. He was instantly discouraged and said, All right, I am trash. At the side. Seeing that his brother had been defeated, the eldest brother of the Tianfeng family immediately stood up and looked at Ning Tian. He questioned, Why would young mistress like you? She is the genius of our endless fire territory. Well, Ning Tian fell into deep thought. Seeing this, sacred sun deity smirked. I've finally stumped this brat. Maybe I'm more handsome. Could it be that being handsome is also a mistake? Ning Tian shrugged. Hearing this, the divine sun god and the three youths of the Tianfeng family were instantly stunned. How could there be such a narcissistic person? However, they had to admit that this brat was really handsome. Although they were angry, they were telling the truth. F***ck. Thousands of words were finally condensed into a single word to express the feelings of the four of them. However, just as the divine sun god was continuously hinting at the youth beside him, Ning Tian suddenly exclaimed. It was as if an ancient tablet had fallen to the ground. He bent down to pick it up. However, his movements were very slow. It was as if he was deliberately letting them see it. SSS, the ancient tablet of the heavenly palace. This youth is, in an instant, the three youths of the Tianfeng family narrowed their eyes. They were not ignorant people. Naturally, they knew what the ancient tablet represented. He actually had the heavenly god constitution. He was from the heavenly palace. What the F***ck? Ahem, the three young men did not dare to stay any longer. They hurriedly said to the sacred sun god, Well, your excellency, it's going to rain. I think we'll take our leave first. Then they ran away. You have shocked the three nameless youths of the Tianfeng family. Reward. Endless happiness 2-person experience drywood raging fire experience card. Function. The system does not know, but the host will know. When you are happy, your spiritual energy absorption will increase by 100 times. Consolidate your strength. Effective time, 1 week. Void after use. Hearing this, Ning Tian's mouth twitched. System, can you not make the dual day experience card sound so elegant? Also a 1 week? You think too highly of me. System, are you scared? Ning Tian, can Ning Buxa be scared? Looking at the three youths who were scared away by Ning Tian, the divine sun god was stunned for a moment. Then, he shook his head helplessly. He looked at the ancient tablet on Ning Tian's waist and could not help but sigh. He did not expect this kid's talent to be so abnormal. In just 2 years, he had gained the recognition of the 9 supremes of the heavenly palace. His original intention was to test Ning Tian and see how this kid would react to seeing his love rivals. He did not expect to scare them away with just a few words. Grandpa, the next time you test me, remember to find a few reliable ones. These few are not as talented as me, and they are not as handsome as me. This will work. Ning Tian smiled and patted the divine sun god's shoulder, reminding him in a friendly manner. Hearing this, the divine sun god's mouth twitched. This brat really saw through it. Also, find reliable ones? Is there any youth in the divine dominion who is more talented than you? Is there anyone who is more handsome than you? T, right? At this moment, Ning Tian seemed to have thought of something. He looked at the divine sun god and asked, Where is Bai Lu? Bai Lu? The divine sun god raised an eyebrow and said slowly, Oh, that girl is still cultivating in the Fire Spirit Tower in the Fire Domain. That place is very suitable for her to cultivate. Okay. Hearing this, Ning Tian was relieved. What about my wife? Oh, in the Sea of Fire. The divine sun god answered instinctively. Then, he suddenly realized something and looked at Ning Tian as if he was a thief. He frowned and asked, Kid, what are you trying to do? Well, Ning Tian chuckled and disappeared in the next second, leaving behind a sentence that echoed in the hall. Of course, I'm going to find my wife and give birth to a bunch of great-grandchildren for you. By the way, I'll leave Sha Tian in your care, Grandpa. Give birth? Great-grandchildren? F***CK. You little brat. Inside the hall, heavenly god Xing Sun cursed angrily, the flames on his head rising 3 feet high. In the Sea of Fire. This was the place where the juniors in the Fire Domain cultivated. The flames here were thick and the spiritual energy was abundant. It was a good place to cultivate. The Fire Domain was divided into 9 levels. Ning Tian's cheap wife was sitting on the 9th level. She was the only one sitting on the 9th level. The surrounding flames with rich spiritual energy surged toward her body. She closed her beautiful eyes and silently absorbed the spiritual energy with the flames. Outside the Sea of Fire. Many juniors in the Fire Domain looked at the figure on the 9th level with awe in their eyes. I didn't expect the young mistress to show such talent as soon as she returned to the Fire Domain. She's crushed all the geniuses from before. Sigh. She's worthy of being the top talent in the talent assessment. It's a pity. The young mistress left the deity domain and went to the 9 domains. Otherwise, her strength would have surpassed young Master Luo and the others. Young Master Luo and the others are all cultivating in the deity domain. They should be at least 5 stars of the ancestor god realm now. If the young mistress didn't leave, she would have reached the heavenly god realm. After all, the young mistress's talent is there for all to see. Yeah, I really don't know why the young mistress left. Shoo, don't talk about that. Do you want to die? There were whispers all around. In the crowd, a young man with a malicious expression looked at the Sea of Fire. His gaze was fixed on the 9th floor. He gritted his teeth and muttered in a low voice, Luo Wuqing, even if you've returned, it's not up to you to decide. You're just a fatherless and motherless. He didn't finish his sentence. Suddenly, a black shadow came crashing down from the sky, instantly smashing the sinister-looking young man to the ground. Young Master Luo? Kid, who are you? Get off, young Master Luo. The expression of the young man's followers changed when they saw this scene. They shouted at the black shadow that fell from the sky. I'm really sorry. I didn't control my flight properly and accidentally hit you. I'm really sorry. The black shadow raised his head and revealed a handsome face. It was Ning Tian. Although he apologized, he wasn't in a hurry to get off the young man's body. He even secretly stepped on the young man a few times before getting up. He didn't control his flight properly? Are you F***king kidding me? We're all from the deity domain. How could he not know how to fly? The corners of the people's mouths couldn't help but twitch when they heard this. This guy really knows how to talk nonsense. All right. I don't think anyone will be seriously injured from being sat on, right? Ning Tian said with a smile. Then, she charged into the Sea of Fire, but the corners of her mouth curled into a smile. How dare you scold my wife secretly? I'll kill you. If not for the fact that they didn't know the whole story, this young man would be dead today. The group of people stared blankly at this scene. This person attacked young Master Luo. Then left just like that? Pfft! The young man got up from the ground with a murderous look in his eyes. His mouth was full of blood. That hit almost seriously injured him. What about the kid who attacked me? The followers beside him were stunned. At this moment, voices came from the surroundings. The guy who attacked young Master Luo just rushed into the Sea of Fire. Damn. He rushed directly to the 9th floor. What? The young man's expression changed, and a wisp of astonishment flashed through his eyes as he suddenly looked towards the sea of flames that covered the sky. Sure enough, he saw a light figure appear on the 9th floor in the sea of fire. This person entered the sea of fire for less than 3 seconds. That person entered the 9th floor already? Another peerless genius appeared in the blaze domain? Damn it, the young man cursed in a low voice. He clenched his fists and his eyes were full of murderous intent. The sea of fire. The 9th floor. This sea of fire doesn't seem to be difficult, Ning Tian muttered. The flames on his body dissipated. He used the path of nature to absorb the flames and gain the right to use the law of heavenly flame. Although it was only for a minute, with the law of heavenly flame, he could deal with the sea of fire. Wife, Ning Tian's eyes soon saw a beautiful figure. His gaze softened. However, just as he rushed over, a flame suddenly rushed toward that beautiful figure. Author's words, I really can't add more chapters because my brain isn't enough. If I add more chapters, I'll only finish writing the plot that I've thought of in advance. In that case, after I finish writing the plot that I've thought of, before my brain can think of a new plot, it'll be very painful and I won't know why I'm stuck. That's why I don't dare to add more chapters. I'm afraid the plot will collapse. Chapter 5:17. Husband, are you saying that there is an opportunity in the earth core fire? Hearing Ning Tian's words, Luo Wuqing frowned slightly and turned to look at him. Yu Yao once told her that her husband meant an old pervert. She also understood the underlying meaning. When her husband said that there was an opportunity, it meant that there was an opportunity. Yes, and it is not a small opportunity. Ning Tian smiled and nodded. In front of her was a sea of lava, and waves of hot wind were blowing towards her. If not for Xingyang Sky God using his spirit qi to cover everyone, they might have been burned to death. The earth core fire. According to Luo Wuqing's explanation, the earth core fire was the reason why the endless fire territory had more spiritual energy than other places. If the earth core flame were to dissipate, then the endless fire territory would become ordinary and mediocre. However, although the earth core fire could bring benefits, it was also unstable. It contained great power. If it went out of control, the entire endless fire territory would be affected. At that time, the endless fire territory would be destroyed by the torrential flames. Built on fire, it would be destroyed by fire in the end. Boom, boom, boom in the sea of lava before his eyes, a series of rumbling sounds could be heard continuously. As expected, the earth core fire is completely different from before. It has become so violent. Hu Lai frowned as he looked at the sea of lava. The sea of lava before him was boiling, and there were heat waves that constantly slapped at him. Even a heavenly god like him found it difficult to withstand the heat waves. Father, such a situation has never happened in the past hundreds and thousands of years. Luo Zetian looked at the sea of lava. In the middle of the sea of lava, there was a ball of flame that was 100 meters in size. It took the shape of a human and there were continuous rumbling sounds. The surrounding lava seemed to be responding to it. It has never happened before. Sacred Sun God nodded slightly. He pondered for a moment and said with a serious look, if we don't calm the earth core fire, the sea of lava will go berserk. At that time, it will be unimaginable. Yes. Hearing this, the experts of the fire territory nodded heavily. However, soon they came to their senses. My lord, we understand the logic, but how do we pacify them? The group of experts from the fire domain looked at the flaming figure formed by the earth core flame. They couldn't help but look at the sacred sun god. If they weren't careful, wouldn't it cause a riot? This, Xingyang heavenly god frowned and hesitated. He was very good at destroying the earth core flame, but the earth core flame could not be destroyed. It was related to the future of the fire domain. Therefore, this was going to be difficult. I'll try my best, Sacred Sun God said. Then, the flame on his head rose, and a huge flaming figure appeared behind him. Sacred Sun God slammed his palm toward the core flame in the lava sea with endless flame power. Flame Dharma Body! It's the Domain Master's flaming avatar! Seeing this, the cultivators from the fire domain all looked over with anticipation. Flame Dharma Body! Unfortunately, this move of grandfather's is of no use. Ning Tian held Luo Wuqing's hand, and a fiery glow could be faintly seen on their bodies, helping them to resist the high temperature. Ning Tian muttered when she saw Xingyang Empyrean gods move. Husband, are you saying that the outer guild will fail? Luo Wuqing tilted his head and looked at him. Yes. But it doesn't matter. With grandfather's strength, he can sense that something is wrong and withdraw his palm halfway. It seems that the flame born of heaven and earth has also mutated. It is indeed the law of heaven and earth. It is enough to make all flames submit. Ning Tian murmured, and the corners of his mouth lifted slightly. The stronger the law of heaven and earth was, the more fate it had with him. Boom! At this moment, Sacred Sun God's palm, which was covered with raging flame spiritual energy, slammed toward the earth core flame that was hundreds of meters large. His goal was simple. He wanted to use the most violent method to force the earth core flame back into the lava sea. Then, he would forcibly seal it. This seemed to be the best way now. Boom! Suddenly, at this moment, the earth flame in human form seemed to have sensed something and turned to look at Sacred Sun Deity. Then, as the flame flickered, it split into two. Boom! 2 earth core flames. Sacred Sun God frowned, and a trace of awe flashed in his eyes. He retracted his fist without hesitation. At this moment, the earth core flame released a raging flame shockwave that swept in all directions. It is indeed a creature born of heaven and earth. Its spiritual intelligence is so high. Seeing this, Ning Tian raised his hand, and a flame shield appeared out of thin air, blocking in front of him and Luo Wuqing. If the earth core flame was not so important to the blaze domain, according to the ancestral master's usual style, he would have taken it away. But, since the earth core flame could not be taken away, he had no choice but to reluctantly take away the better things. Boom! Be careful of the earth core flame. The flames swept over. Luo Zetian roared, and the experts around him circulated their spiritual energy, ready to defend. Boom! The flame wave came and bombarded everyone's spiritual energy. One hit. With just one hit, everyone felt the immense power of the earth core flame's attack. Their bodies trembled, as if their spiritual energy had been ignited. But fortunately, the earth core flame only attacked once. Phew! Luo Zetian and the others heaved a sigh of relief. Strange, why do I smell a meaty aroma? This meat is at least a finished product. Hu Lai frowned, and there was a trace of doubt. Meaty aroma? The surrounding experts of the blaze domain twitched their noses. Indeed, they smelled a strange meaty aroma. Roar! Meat? Roasted meat? Where is it? When the sealed flame lion king heard the group's words, its eyes widened, and it looked around with hunger. Its eyes were glowing green, and it was drooling. It seemed that it had not eaten meat for a long time. After all, during the 2 years in the heavenly palace, 8th senior brother Yi Wuyo had fed it a vegetarian diet. Meet your head. That's your own tail being roasted. Ning Tian rolled his eyes at the sealed flame lion king. Roar? The sealed flame lion king was stunned, and then it turned around slowly. Sure enough, it saw a small flame on its tail. It swallowed its saliva, and then heard a miserable cry. Roar! This can't go on. Sacred Sun God retracted his flame celestial body, and looked at the sea of fire in front of him. He frowned slightly. If he made a mistake and the earth core flame went out of control, the consequences would be unimaginable. The only thing this old man was embarrassed about was, he had the strength, but he could not do anything about the earth core flame. With his strength, it would be easy for him to destroy the earth core flame, but the earth core flame was the foundation of the blaze domain. Destroying the Earth core flame was equivalent to destroying the blaze domain's future. Father, something is wrong with the Earth core flame. Luo Zetian frowned slightly, and the experts of the blaze domain behind him were at a loss. Chapter 5:18. This was the first time the core fire had gone berserk, so they did not dare to act rashly. If they made a mistake and the core fire went out of control, the entire blaze territory would be affected. Who would dare to bear such a crime? That was why they were restrained. Sacred Sun God fell into silence. He frowned as he looked at the core fire in the lava sea. The core fire had turned into a flaming figure that was 100 meters tall. It looked at the lava sea as if it was looking for something. Grandfather, why don't you let me do it? Just as everyone was at a loss, a hearty chuckle sounded from the side. Hearing that, the cultivators of the fire domain looked over and looked at the smiling Ning Tian with a trace of doubt in their eyes. You want to do it? Sacred Sun God looked at Ning Tian and frowned. After pondering for a while, he nodded and said, "All right, I'll let you try." "What?" "Father, this concerns the future of the blaze territory. If the core fire goes berserk, what will happen to the blaze territory? This is the blaze territory that you built single-handedly. We can't let it be destroyed like this." Luo Zetian and the others were shocked when they heard Sacred Sun God casually let Ning Tian try. It was not that they looked down on Ning Tian, even Sacred Sun God could not solve it in a short time. No matter how talented Ning Tian was, he was only an ancestor god. If he failed, the consequences would be unimaginable. They could not afford to take the risk. "Shut up." Sacred Sun God scolded and looked at them indifferently. "If I don't let this boy do it, will you do it? Do you dare?" As soon as he said that, the crowd fell silent. Yes, they did not dare. The crime of eternity was especially heavy. This was the difference between them and Ning Tian. They had to try everything. They would rather make mistakes than do nothing. You can't do it, but it doesn't mean others can't. If you can't do it, then shut up and watch. When Shang Sun God saw that the people from the Fire Realm were silent, he sighed helplessly. These people from the Fire Realm were strong, but they had no opinions of their own. They were used to relying on him to solve all their problems. Then, he looked at Ning Tian. "Brat, come at me. If you destroy this god's fire domain, I'll settle the score with your parents." He glared at Ning Tian. "Parents? Grandpa, don't worry. I've never done anything reckless." Ning Tian chuckled and released Luo Wuqing's soft hand. Under everyone's gaze, he calmly walked towards the sea of lava. "Hee, what's below the core fire is good stuff." The corners of his mouth curled up. He jumped down. When they saw Ning Tian jump down from the cliff, Luo Zetian and the others widened their eyes. Even heavenly gods would not dare to do anything reckless in the sea of lava below, let alone an ancestor god. However, their pupils constricted when they looked over. They saw that Ning Tian was standing on the sea of lava, and his entire body was faintly enveloped by a strand of flame energy. It was this strange flame energy that ignored the high temperature of the sea of lava. "This is flame?" Luo Zetian frowned and looked at Luo Wuqing, who had a cold expression on her face. He could not help but ask, "Wuqing, did you teach this young friend the Fire Realm's raging flame technique?" Luo Wuqing shook her head slightly. Her beautiful eyes were still on Ning Tian. Her red lips parted slightly. "Uncle, do you really think that the Fire Realm's raging flame technique can ignore the high temperature of the core fire?" This, Luo Zetian was taken aback. He frowned slightly and said, "Indeed, even the raging flame of a divine-grade technique cannot compare to the high temperature of the core fire, let alone touch it completely." At this point, he looked at Ning Tian, who was walking on the sea of lava as if it were flat ground. He was surprised. "This is my husband." A glint flashed across Luo Wuqing's beautiful eyes. She slightly raised her snow-white chin. Her cold voice carried a trace of pride. "Cough, my precious granddaughter, Why are you siding with an outsider? Seeing this, the corner of Saint Sun God's mouth twitched. He shook his head helplessly. At this moment, everyone's eyes were on Ning Tian. They were shocked. On the sea of lava, Ning Tian was strolling leisurely. He looked calm as he slowly approached the core fire. How did he do it? Can he ignore the temperature of the core fire? Seeing this, the experts of the fire domain frowned. They were puzzled. Wherever he takes a step, the flames retreat. This is exactly the same as the riot in the Sea of Fire a few days ago. Hu Lai's expression was grave as he looked at the young man strolling on the sea of lava. He seemed to have understood something. It was not that he could ignore the core fire. It was, the core fire was afraid of him. How did he do it? It's very simple. Saint Sun God curled his lips. His eyes fell on the blazing flame on Ning Tian's body. He said indifferently, as long as you can master the heavenly fire law, you can do it too. Hearing this, Luo Zetian and Hu Lai were stunned. Simple, heavenly fire law? This was King Simple? The heavenly fire law was the king of all flames. No. It was not an exaggeration to call it the god of all flames. Even Saint Sun God, the ruler of the fire domain, had not mastered it. Sigh. Just as everyone was staring at each other, Saint Sun God waved his hand and sighed. Calm down, for this stinking brat, mastering the heavenly fire law is as simple as having hands, right? The experts of the fire domain were dumbfounded. Mastering the heavenly fire law is as simple as having hands? The fire domain master, did he have Alzheimer's? Who exactly is this guy? At this moment, Luo Zetian frowned. He looked at Ning Tian, who was walking toward the core fire. His eyes were full of seriousness. He knew that Saint Sun God would not speak carelessly. For his father to say such words, this was enough to prove that Ning Tian's identity was really terrifying. Suddenly, his pupils shrank as if he had seen something unbelievable. His eyes stopped at Ning Tian's waist. It was an ordinary ancient tablet. There was only one word on it, but it was enough to shock him. In the next moment, above the sea of lava, Luo Zetian's voice rang out. He is from the heavenly palace. As soon as he finished speaking, his body trembled. At this moment, he finally understood why his father, Saint Sun God, could say such words. It was because this kid was from the heavenly palace. He had the heavenly god body of this generation. Heavenly palace? Hearing Luo Zetian's words, the experts of the fire domain were stunned at first. Then, a huge force appeared in their minds. Their faces turned pale as they looked at the calm young man in shock. What the *CK? Our son-in-law of the fire domain. He was from the heavenly palace? At this moment, Ning Tian was already standing in front of the core fire, which was hundreds of meters away. Chapter 519. Is this the core fire? That's right. The fire spirit chi can enhance the spirit chi in one's body. In other words, it can speed up one's cultivation. No wonder the fire domain treats it as a treasure. Ning Tian looked up at the core fire that was hundreds of meters in size. He already had many ideas in his mind on how to get rid of the core fire. Just then, the system's voice sounded in his mind. You shocked Luo Zetian. You shocked Hu Lai. You shocked all the experts in the fire domain. Reward: Artifact Resonance Card. It can increase your intimacy with the artifact. Artifact Resonance Card. Hearing the system's voice in his mind, Ning Tian frowned slightly. He could not help but feel disappointed. He thought the system's reward would be about how to get rid of the core fire gracefully. Boom, boom, boom! At that moment, the core fire turned into a 100-meter flaming figure and looked at Ning Tian. It raised its flaming palm and was about to attack the tiny ant under its feet. But the moment it raised its flaming palm, it heard the ant in front of it say, "Don't be so noisy. I haven't thought of how to get rid of you yet. As soon as it said that, boom. It was like another invisible rule that directly bound the flaming figure. At that moment, around Ning Tian's body, a tiny but mighty flame appeared. It was the power of the heavenly fire rules of order. It is indeed the heavenly fire rule. He subdued the core fire in an instant. When Sacred Sun God saw this scene, he immediately looked over with envy. As the master of the fire field, he naturally understood the power of the heavenly fire rules of order. However, even if he had the Sacred Sun body, he could only comprehend the heavenly fire rules of order. It was not 100% comprehension. Therefore, he could only take a step back and choose the strongest pure sacred flame under the heavenly fire rule. Heavenly Palace, it is indeed the Heavenly Palace. The 9 primes of the Heavenly Palace were all monstrous geniuses in their era. Now that the 10th Heavenly God body has appeared, doesn't it mean that he is the most powerful genius of this era? Hiss, our fire domain is rich. For a moment, everyone looked at Ning Tian with burning eyes as if they were looking at a piece of treasure. Heavenly Palace, on the other hand, Luo Feng's lips instantly turned white. The hatred in his eyes when he looked at Ning Tian changed to unwillingness, and finally to obedience. He knew what the Heavenly Palace represented. If he dared to act recklessly, the fire domain would expel him. That was it. He hadn't even started to challenge Ning Tian, yet he had already lost. Knowing that Ning Tian had a frightening background, he still went to stir up trouble. Either he was tired of living or he was an idiot. Clearly, Luo Feng was neither. He was someone who followed his heart. If Ning Tian dared to hit him, he would dare to die. Stinking brat, hurry up and suppress this earth core flame. By the side. Seeing that Ning Tian had yet to make a move, Xingyang Heavenly God hurriedly said. The earth core fire was extremely unstable. If something were to happen to it halfway through, it would be a little out of hand. Wait. Ning Tian's unhurried voice rang out. What are we waiting for? Xing Sun Empyrean God was a hot-tempered old man. Wait for me, there's a bug. The corner of Ning Tian's mouth lifted slightly, and a glimmer of light flashed in his eyes. What? What the hell? Lord Brother? Hearing this, Xingyang Heavenly God and the experts from the fire domain were stunned. Were they not human, or was Ning Tian not human? Why couldn't they understand what he was saying? Grandfather, just look at my husband. On the side, Luo Wuqing was very quiet. Her beautiful eyes fell on Ning Tian and she whispered, He will bring us a miracle. Seeing this scene, Xingyang Heavenly God felt like he had just eaten a lemon, and he was puzzled. What kind of bewitching potion did this brat give his precious granddaughter? Why did she trust him so much? And where the flames were? Ning Tian raised his hand and used the sand of time. His heavenly fire law only had 1 minute to use. After 1 minute, there was still a cooldown period. Therefore, he wanted to use a bug. Using the law of time, he could make this 1 minute infinitely long. This way, he could enjoy the heavenly fire law for free. Sand of time. Use. Tick-tock. When the murmur in his heart fell, a huge clock suddenly appeared behind Ning Tian, and the clock ran every second. At this moment, his time slowed down, but his speed was not affected at all. This fluctuation, this brat has also mastered the law of time? He is indeed a monster. Seeing this scene, Xingyang Heavenly God sighed. He has mastered another law of heaven and earth. As long as I have hands. Damn it, now I don't even deserve to have my girlfriend's hands? Seeing this scene, the experts from the fire domain twitched their mouth. They took a deep breath and tried to calm themselves down. At this moment, Ning Tian, who was standing in front of the earth flame, began to flow slowly around him. He looked at the fire in front of him, and a golden light flashed in his eyes. The affinity of the law of heaven and earth was telling him. Under the earth flame, there was the law of heaven and earth, the heavenly fire. It was because of the birth of the heavenly fire law that the earth flame was so violent. After all, its home was occupied by others, and it could not do anything about it. How could it not be angry? It seems that I have to find a way to seal the earth flame first, and then take out the heavenly fire law. In the sand of time, Ning Tian frowned and pondered. Soon, he had an idea. He murmured, "Let's use the old man's sealing technique first. I wonder if he has succeeded in his reincarnation." Next, the sealing power of broken burial of dusk appeared on his hand. He was going to bury the fire. What a familiar move! Why does this brat's move feel so familiar? Seeing this, Xingyang Heavenly God frowned slightly. Very soon, under the sealing power of broken burial's dusk, in front of everyone's eyes, the earthcore fire quickly condensed into a ball of flame that danced in Ning Tian's hand. "Brat, it's done." Seeing this, Xingyang Heavenly God could not help but ask, "Yes?" Ning Tian nodded slightly and then casually threw the earth flame toward Xingyang Heavenly God. Next, it was the most important thing. He looked at the lava sea as if his eyes could see through it. The newly born heavenly fire, sure enough. I met it when it was just born. It is indeed fate. The corner of Ning Tian's mouth lifted slightly. Just as he was about to break the lava sea, a few ghostly figures appeared in the lava sea. "This is Flame Spirit. This thing is a great supplement for souls. It's a pity that Bai Lu isn't here. Otherwise, she would definitely be able to absorb it." Ning Tian stroked his chin. The ancestral master's principle was to not let go of anything good. However, at this moment, he seemed to have thought of something. Wasn't the artifact resonance card just now a foreshadowing for this flame spirit? Use. Artifact resonance card. Target, Death Bell. As soon as he finished speaking, Artifact resonance card has been used successfully. Your intimacy with Death Bell has reached the highest level. You can use remote summoning. In his mind, the system notification sounded. "Oh, summoning?" The corner of Ning Tian's mouth lifted slightly. He then used it silently. Obtaining the law of heaven and earth, and also receiving benefit. This kind of thing was simply wonderful. He saw the space in front of him fluctuated. Then, a bell rang and a beautiful figure in white emerged. Bai Lu was puzzled. Obviously, she had not recovered from the shock of teleporting to the earth flame from the fire spirit pagoda. She was in a state of, "Who am I? Where am I? What am I doing?" Ning. Brother Ning? TSK. At this moment, she noticed Ning Tian who was beside her. The author's words, "Happy Little New Year. Are you going to combine the three or release them separately?" Also, to be honest, at this point, I am already at a loss because there is a plot in my mind, but I can't write it to my heart's content. I am really sorry. If the readers can't continue reading, please abandon the book. Recently, I am really confused and I am not happy with writing. I can only write the plot that drives the plot forward. I am sorry that I can't respond to your expectations. Anyway, even if no one reads this book, I will not end it badly. As for the book lock, I will add the ending after Empress is finished. Chapter 520. Daoist Ning? Where am I? Bai Lu hugged the death bell and looked at Ning Tian in confusion. Then, she looked around in confusion. It was a sea of lava that emitted a boiling temperature. In short, it was not the fire spirit pagoda that she stayed in before. "Oh, I summoned you out of the fire spirit pagoda. This is the earth core fire." Ning Tian looked at Bai Lu with a smile and said proudly, "How is it? This move is powerful, right?" "Powerful." Bai Lu hugged the death bell and was a little confused. Then, "What about my fire spirit?" "Fire spirit? What fire spirit?" Ning Tian asked. That is, absorb the fire spirit that can replenish soul power. It's probably like this." Bai Lu's death bell floated in front of her. Then, she gestured the appearance of the fire spirit to Ning Tian and hugged the death bell again. The fire spirit is the soul product in the fire spirit pagoda. It has great energy for the soul body. Absorbing it can consolidate the soul body. On the side, Luo Wuqing's explanation sounded. "NN. Sister Empress is right." Bai Lu nodded vigorously and looked at Ning Tian expectantly. "So, Taoist Ning, where is the fire spirit that I worked so hard to catch?" "So it's like this," Ning Tian nodded slightly with a look of realization. Under Bai Lu's expectant gaze, he said with a smile, "The fire spirit is naturally in the fire spirit pagoda, don't you think so?" Thus, the light in Bai Lu's eyes slowly disappeared. She hugged the death bell with a disappointed face and hid in the corner to draw circles. "Curse you, Taoist Ning, haha." Seeing this, Ning Tian couldn't help but laugh. Bai Lu, this girl, was still so naive after not seeing her for 2 years. "Husband, you bullied Bai Lu again." On the side, Luo Wuqing's reproachful voice sounded. "I didn't." Ning Tian had an innocent look on his face. Then, he pointed at the flame spirit that was constantly flickering in the flames below. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. "This flame spirit can replenish soul power even more than a fire spirit. Bai Lu, are you sure you don't want it?" "Where?" The moment her voice fell, Bai Lu put away the small branch like lightning and floated over with the death bell in her arms. Her eyes, which had lost their light, suddenly lit up again. For a soul body, things that could replenish soul power were very important. "Over there." Ning Tian pointed at the bottom of the lava sea. Bai Lu looked over. Sure enough, there were several flame spirits that seemed to be souls swimming in the sea of lava. The powerful soul power they contained caused this lady to drool. "It really is a soul body." Bai Lu's beautiful eyes glowed as she charged into the sea of lava. "Miss Bai Lu, wait! It's molten lava below." Seeing Bai Lu carrying the death bell toward the flame spirits below, the faces of the fire domain's experts changed and they hurriedly reminded her. They didn't know much about the girl who came back with the eldest Mississippi. They only knew the girl's name, and from the looks of it, she probably hadn't cultivated for a long time. So when they saw Bai Lu rush into the sea of fire, they were all worried. Even they didn't dare to rashly touch that sea of lava. Boom, boom, however, Bai Lu seemed to have ignored their words. Her figure did not stop at all as she charged directly into the sea of lava. At that moment, a black light appeared on her delicate body. That was Death Qi. Death Qi shrouded her, and she could ignore the high temperature. Seeing this scene, the experts of the fire domain were stunned. What was that? An aura that is infinitely close to the law of death. It's a pity that this girl is a soul body. Otherwise, she would have mastered the law of death. Seeing this scene, Sacred Sun God frowned slightly. What? An aura that is infinitely close to the law of death? Hearing this, the experts of the fire domain were stunned. Were the laws of heaven and earth so worthless now? No, no, suddenly, they looked at the smiling Ning Tian and seemed to understand something. Bai Lu seemed to be very familiar with the son-in-law of the fire domain. It was not that the laws of heaven and earth were worthless, but that the people around the son-in-law were all monsters. After all, that was the Heaven Palace. Hiss! For a moment, the sound of gasps could be heard incessantly. From the beginning to the end, Ning Tian looked at Bai Lu with a calm face. Even when she charged into the sea of lava, he did not stop her. He understood something in his heart. Although Bai Lu was simple, she had many tricks up her sleeve. After all, she had stayed in the Black Earth Death Mountain for so long, and the Death Master doted on her so much. He must have taught her many tricks. As for the Death Master, he was probably an ancient god who could shake the heavens and earth. Boom! The sea of lava churned, and Bai Lu had already caught all the flame spirits and returned to Ning Tian's side. The flame spirits were born of heaven and earth and could absorb spiritual energy. They were extremely effective for a soul body. Phew, With these, I should be able to break through to the 5-star ancestor god realm. Bai Lu had a satisfied look on her face. Hearing this, the corner of Ning Tian's mouth couldn't help but twitch. What's wrong with these ladies? Why are all of their realms higher than mine? Must they let their ancestor live off them? Sigh, so annoying actually. Luo Wuqing and Bai Lu's realms were higher than Ning Tian's, but it was not because their talents were better than Ning Tian's. It was because they focused on improving their strength. Ning Tian was different in the past 2 years. He had many breakthroughs, such as the 3,000 great Daos and the laws of heaven and earth. Therefore, he had neglected the breakthroughs in his strength. This meant that he had too many tricks up his sleeve, and he was helpless. Daoist Ning, I'll leave myself to you first. I'm going to break through. Bai Lu's small face was full of vigilance as she looked at Ning Tian. She carefully placed the death bell in his hand. Don't have any bad intentions? Don't worry. Ning Tian smiled. I don't have any fetishistic fetishes. Even if their ancestor was perverted, how could he have any bad thoughts about a cold death bell? Humph. Bai Lu snorted and then turned into a soul body and entered her body. No, she entered the death bell. Don't worry, I'll take good care of you. Seeing this silly girl enter the death bell, Ning Tian wanted to take good care of her. Then, he threw the death bell into his storage ring. Soon, a painful cry came from the storage ring. Seeing this, the experts of the fire domain looked at Ning Tian indignantly. This son-in-law was too inhumane. Cough, holding the sealed earth core fire in his hand, God Xingyang coughed and looked at Ning Tian. Brat, the earth core fire's rebellion should be over, right? It's over. Ning Tian nodded slightly. Hearing this, the surrounding people couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. However, Ning Tian's voice sounded again. Chapter 521. It's over. It's over. However, in my opinion, the core fire will go berserk again in less than 100 years. The power of the berserk might even cover the entire fire domain. Ning Tian chuckled as he looked at Xing Sun, Heavenly God, and the others. His words were not spoken casually. After all, under the core fire, there was the heavenly fire law. Although it was not fully mature yet, once it matured, the terrifying flames would completely ignite the core fire. By then, the entire fire domain would be covered in flames. Will it go berserk again? The power will be enough to cover the entire fire domain. Hearing Ning Tian's words, the faces of the experts from the fire domain changed. Their expressions gradually turned serious. Their son-in-law's words were not alarmist. After all, the 2 words, Heavenly Palace, were enough to convince them of Ning Tian's words. Stinky brat, do you have a solution? Sacred Sun God frowned as he looked at Ning Tian. If this brat dared to say so, it meant that he must have a solution. Well, Ning Tian lifted the corner of his mouth as he thought of something to scam. Cut the crap. The greatest treasure of the fire domain has been taken away by you. Hurry up and leave. Seeing Ning Tian's smile, Sacred Sun God immediately knew what Ning Tian wanted to do. He immediately glared at him. When he mentioned the greatest treasure, his displeasure was revealed once again. Ha ha! That's true. Ning Tian laughed as he looked at his first wife. Humph, you are the envy of others for being able to marry such a beautiful wife. So, can you work now? Sacred Sun God snorted. When he said this, his expression was extremely unhappy. Even his voice was sour. Ha ha! Grandfather, don't be envious. When the time comes, I will give birth to 2 human babies for you to play with. Ning Tian laughed again. Sacred Sun God was silent for a while as he gritted his teeth. Alright, let's cut the crap. Ning Tian looked at the sea of lava and smiled. I do have a solution. Moreover, it's a solution that will solve the problem once and for all. Once and for all. Upon hearing this, Luo Zetian, Hu Lai, and the other experts from the fire domain widened their eyes in anticipation. Yes. Wife, come with me. Ning Tian smiled and nodded. Then, she turned to Luo Wuqing and held her hand. She said to Xingyang God, "Grandfather, let's go down first." His voice faded. Ning Tian's body emitted a wisp of black energy, which was the law of death. The power of the law of death enveloped the two of them, and they quickly disappeared before the eyes of the group of powerhouses from the fire domain. After all, the 1-minute usage of the heavenly flame law had ended. Now, he could only use the law of death to ignore the blazing temperature. Seeing this, the group of experts from the fire domain had yet to react. "Father, they jumped down," Luo Zetian said with a sullen face. I saw it." "Father, that huge amount of black gas earlier was the law of death, right?" Luo Zetian continued. Yes, the corner of Divine Sun God's mouth twitched and he nodded. This time, even he was a little shocked. This brat, he could control 3 laws of heaven and earth at the same time. Then our son-in-law of the fire domain, has he mastered 3 laws of heaven and earth? Moreover, he seems to be extremely proficient in every law of heaven and earth. Is he still a human? Above the lava sea, there was silence. Everyone's face darkened. "You said you mastered one of the laws of heaven and earth. Fine, I'll bear with it. After all, you're a monster. You said you mastered 2 laws of heaven and earth. Fine, I'll bear with it. After all, you have the heavenly God constitution. But you King said you mastered 3 laws of heaven and earth, and you're very familiar with all of them. Sorry, I can't bear with it. CK. Son-in-law, BAF King Human." A series of curses came from above the lava sea. "Even those from the heavenly palace are not as abnormal as you. They all have the heavenly God constitution, but you don't play by the rules." In the lava sea, 2 figures emerged, shrouded in a deathly aura. The burning sea of flames around them exuded a sense of fear. Everything in the world had to face life and death, and these flames were no exception. In the depths of the lava sea was the sea of flames. "Husband, what's your way of settling this once and for all?" Luo Wuqing looked up at Ning Tian and asked. Well, Ning Tian chuckled and told Luo Wuqing about the law of heaven and earth under the earth flame. He then said, "You see, the 2 of us spent more than 2 weeks to consolidate your sacred yang body. I didn't expect the law of heavenly fire to come to me. Isn't this a kind of fate? Haha." Hearing this, Luo Wuqing couldn't help but roll his eyes at Ning Tian. He didn't know if it was fate or not, but did you really spend more than 2 weeks to consolidate my sacred yang body? Haha. Let's go. Ning Tian laughed when his wife rolled her eyes at him. He then pulled Luo Wuqing toward the deepest part of the sea of flames. However, at this moment, the system's voice sounded in his mind again. "You shocked sacred sun god. You shocked Luo Zetian. You shocked Hu Lai. You shocked all the experts in the fire domain. Reward. The law of heavenly fire nurturing method uses the entire fire domain as nutrients and absorbs the fire's spiritual energy to strengthen the law of heavenly fire. It can be used to set up a formation that covers the entire fire domain. Those who cultivate in the formation can increase their cultivation speed. Part of the spiritual energy can be used to supplement the host's law of heavenly fire." The system's voice sounded in his mind. A formation that covers the entire fire domain? Ning Tian was stunned when he heard the system's voice. However, he quickly reacted. It seemed that the system was finally willing to give him a big reward. "Husband, what's wrong?" On the other hand, Luo Wuqing couldn't help but feel puzzled when he saw Ning Tian standing rooted to the ground. "Nothing. There might be a big surprise later." Ning Tian smiled mysteriously. He then held her soft, white hand and walked toward the depths of the sea of lava. In the depths of the sea of lava, there was a small flame that was burning continuously. In the depths of the sea of lava, the flames continued to burn. In the middle of the flames, the palm-sized holy flame was emitting a scorching glow. The surrounding flames were far away from it. This was the law of heavenly fire. Although the heavenly fire was small, its power was enough to overpower all other flames. I finally found you! At this moment, Ning Tian's soft laughter sounded. Two figures walked over. The aura of the law of death dispersed the surrounding flames. Is this the law of heavenly fire? Seeing the palm-sized holy flame, Luo Wuqing frowned slightly. Her beautiful eyes revealed a trace of doubt. Yes, it's just that it hasn't fully matured yet. Ning Tian nodded slightly. Previously, he had the right to use the law of heavenly fire for 1 minute. He had some understanding of the law of heavenly fire. His body already had the ability to adapt to the law of heaven and earth. He already had an affinity with the law of heaven and earth. It was not difficult for him to absorb the law of heavenly fire. Chapter 522. The two of them stopped in front of the heavenly fire law. A black aura appeared in Ning Tian's hand. After leaving enough death aura on Luo Wuqing's body to protect her, he slowly walked towards the holy pure flames. The heavenly fire law was right in front of him. Phew, in this case there are only 3 laws of heaven and earth that I have completely grasped: death, time, and heavenly fire. Ning Tian looked at the holy pure flames in front of him and let out a long sigh of relief. He did not include the law of life. To him, the law of life was something that he had accidentally comprehended when he was comprehending the law of death. He was not very proficient in it and had not reached the level where he could control someone's life. Therefore, he did not include it in it for now. The holy pure flames in front of him continued to emit a blazing radiance. Ning Tian took a deep breath and extended his hand towards the holy pure flames. However, at this moment, before he could take the initiative to absorb it, the heavenly fire law approached him. Oh, you want me to absorb it so badly? Seeing the heavenly fire law's action, Ning Tian raised his brows. It seemed that the heavenly fire law was quite smart. It knew who to follow to become stronger. It seems that you and I are indeed fated. In that case, as you wish. Ning Tian's lips curled into a smile. He raised his hand and the law of heaven and earth in his hand continued to erupt. He absorbed the heavenly fire into his body and began to circulate the heavenly God record. Absorbing the heavenly fire law. The system's voice sounded in his mind. Ning Tian sat cross-legged. Flames erupted from his body. The surrounding flames seemed to have seen their king and submitted to him. At the side, Luo Wuqing quietly guarded him. Dozens of minutes later, phew, it's finally over. Ning Tian let out a long sigh and slowly opened his eyes. The moment he opened his eyes, the flames in his eyes dissipated. Congratulations to the hosts for successfully comprehending the heavenly fire law. Husband, it's over? Seeing Ning Tian open his eyes, Luo Wuqing's cold voice sounded. Ning Tian got up slightly and walked to Luo Wuqing. He slowly opened his hands and 2 holy flames appeared. They contained an intense comprehension of the laws of heaven and earth. Dear, this is my comprehension of the heavenly fire law. With your talent, you will definitely be able to comprehend the heavenly fire law after some cultivation. He handed the 2 flames to Luo Wuqing. What about the other one? Luo Wuqing looked at the other flame. It's also a form of comprehension. Well, you can leave this to grandfather. Ning Tian chuckled. He naturally knew how Xingyang Sky God had protected Luo Wuqing. It was a kind of familial affection, so he would not treat Xingyang Sky God unfairly. Why don't you give it to him yourself? Luo Wuqing looked at Ning Tian. That won't do. With grandfather's character, he will definitely dawdle if I give it to him. It's better for you to give it to him. It will save time and effort. Ning Tian waved his hand slightly. Given Xingyang Sky God's character, he would probably dawdle for a long time. Okay. Luo Wuqing nodded slightly and kept the comprehension of the 2 heavenly fire. Let's go. We are only halfway done. There is a bigger demolition project waiting for us. Ning Tian chuckled. He then took Luo Wuqing's hand and stepped out of the sea of fire. Outside. Why do I feel that the power of the earth fire seems to be much more stable? Has that stinky brat been dealt with? The moment Ning Tian absorbed the heavenly fire law, Xingyang Sky God noticed the change in the earth fire in his hand. He could not help but frown slightly. Father, look. The sea of lava has changed. At this moment, Luo Zetian's voice sounded. Xingyang Sky God and a group of experts from the fire domain looked over and saw the changes in the sea of lava. It had changed from the original dark red to a purer color. It seemed that the spiritual qi of the fire domain had become richer. This brat, what did he do? Xingyang Sky God raised his eyebrows. However, Ning Tian didn't do anything. He only took away the biggest benefit. The birth of the heavenly fire law required a huge amount of energy. With its existence, most of the earth fire's energy would be absorbed by it. Now that Ning Tian had taken away the heavenly fire law, the earth fire did not need to provide energy to the heavenly fire. Its original energy was restored. Boom, boom! At this moment, there was a roar in the sea of lava. Then, two figures rushed out of it without warning. It's the young lady and the young master. The moment they saw the two of them, the experts from the fire domain heaved a sigh of relief. Then, a glint of excitement flashed in their eyes. Since the two of them had come out, the problem of the earth fire had been solved. They are finally back. Xingyang Sky God looked over and asked, Brat, how is it? The problem of the earth fire has been solved. However, I have a better idea. The next part is the highlight. Ning Tian landed on the edge of the sea of lava with Luo Wuqing and the corners of his mouth lifted slightly. The highlight? Hearing this, the group of experts from the fire domain was stunned. What highlight? You will know soon. Ning Tian smiled mysteriously. Then, he looked at the ceiling flame Lion King, who was hugging his burnt tail and crying. He said with a smile, Sha Tian, it's your turn to perform. Roar? The ceiling flame Lion King was puzzled. Perform what? Master Lion King had lost his tail. How could he perform? Don't you want to use the dismantling formula? Ning Tian looked at him with a smile. Roar? Roar! In an instant, the ceiling flame Lion King's depression was swept away. He was instantly revived. Tail. Was the tail more important than the dismantling formula? The lion's life declaration. I can lose my tail, but I can't stop tearing down my home. Dismantling. Dismantling formula? What is that? Xingyang Sky God and the group of experts from the fire domain blinked in confusion. You will know soon. Be mentally prepared. Ning Tian reminded him in a friendly manner. It's just using a cultivation technique. Why do you need to be mentally prepared? There is no need. Xingyang Sky God waved his hand slightly. The group of experts from the fire domain behind him also looked calm. What a joke. What kind of storms have they not seen before? Although this was the first time they had heard of the dismantling formula, it should not have surprised them. Seeing this, Ning Tian spread his hands. You did not listen. So, you are blaming me? Roar. Then, with a series of excited lion roars, the ceiling flame Lion King directly used the dismantling formula. A golden light appeared above the sea of lava, and a strange power erupted from Sha Tian. Dismantling. Dismantling? Looking at the golden light in the sky, Xingyang Sky God and the others did not realize the seriousness of the problem. The next moment, boom! Roar! The flame ceiling Lion King roared. The golden word demolish, which was originally only a few hundred meters long, suddenly expanded to tens of thousands of meters long. As its little paw fell, the golden word demolished also fell, smashing towards the lava sea below. Tisk. I didn't expect 8th senior brother to help Sha Tian improve the dismantling formula. Its power is probably hundreds of times stronger than before. With this, the entire sea of lava will be gone. Seeing this scene, Ning Tian could not help but sigh. The sea of lava is gone? Hearing this, Xingyang Sky God and the others were stunned for a moment and suddenly realized that something was wrong. The next moment, as the dismantling formula fell, the sea of lava raged. Xingyang Sky God and the others were instantly petrified and felt their blood pressure soar. What the F***CK? Chapter 523. The moment the word demolished appeared, a huge invisible force condensed in the sky. Then, under the proud expression of the ceiling flame Lion King, it waved its little hand and the word demolish erupted with all its power. In any case, the Lion King had stayed in the heavenly palace for 2 years. It had also cultivated under the guidance of 8th senior brother Yiweo for 2 years and had broken through to the ancestor god realm. To use the word demolish with the strength of an ancestor god, its power was limitless. Roar. Demolish for Master Lion. Humph, humph, humph. The moment the word demolish landed, the sea of fire below began to boil. In the next moment, the word demolish landed on the sea of lava, causing the lava to explode and flames to rise. The surrounding temperature was instantly ignited. F***CK. The word F***CK reverberated through the entire sea of lava. Sacred Sun God, Luo Zetian, and the other fire domain experts were instantly petrified. Their mouths were wide open and their hearts were thumping. Brat, what are you doing? Sacred Sun God's lips trembled and he could not speak clearly. He stared at Ning Tian and said, Brat, are you going to destroy the entire endless fire domain? If you do, I'll drag my family and stay in the Heaven Palace. Luo Zetian and the others were already pale with fright. When the word demolish landed, the entire sea of lava was in an uproar. The core fire, which had been calmed down, was also in an uproar and became extremely violent. The previous uproar was because the heavenly fire laws had taken over its home. Now, the uproar was because even its home was gone. It had stolen its home. Now it was even worse. Oh ho! There was a smack. Its home was gone. How could the core fire not be in an uproar? In an instant, with the core fire's uproar, the surrounding temperature continued to rise. Even the fire domain experts could not withstand it. Seeing this scene, the experts of the fire domain felt like their hearts had given up. The core fire's uproar was destined. Furthermore, it could not be stopped, because this time, the sea of fire was probably the most intense one, and it could no longer be stopped. It was very likely that the fire domain would be completely destroyed by this uprising. Brat, what are you trying to do? Luo Zetian's eyes were red as he stared at Ning Tian. At this moment, he no longer cared about Ning Tian's identity, whether he was from the Heaven Palace's side or his niece's husband's face. Luo Zetian's face. In an instant, everyone's eyes fell on Ning Tian's uproar. Just a second ago, they were still sighing at Ning Tian's miraculous ability to easily pacify the earth core fire, but in the next second, the Sharpai lion used some kind of shatter word to destroy the sea of lava. What the hell, whose is this person's Luo's SSSSSSSSSS? My husband has his own reasons for doing this. While the fire domain experts were glaring at Ning Tian, Luo Wuqing stood in front of Ning Tian with an indifferent expression. Why are you so agitated? Reasons? What a goods! Luo Zetian sneered, his eyes red. The fire domain was built by him and his father, which was why it was so glorious. His uproar had been destroyed by a stupid lion. How could he calm down? Wuqing, I think you've been bewitched by this brat? Do you know what the core fire's uproar means? It means that the Luo family's thousands of years of hard work will be destroyed. It means that millions of people in the fire domain will lose their homes. In the deity plane, once you lose your home, you either die or become a slave to other forces. Don't you understand? Luo Zetian's eyes were red, and his words were full of anger. Flames had already appeared on his body. It was obvious that his anger had reached an extreme. Around them, the fire domain experts were also glaring at Ning Tian, their spiritual energy and divine power surging at the same time. Everyone's eyes were fixed on Ning Tian, as if they were about to attack him at any moment. Wuqing, get out of the way. Luo Zetian took a deep breath, gritted his teeth, and looked at Ning Tian, who was behind Luo Wuqing. He's from the Heavenly Palace. We won't kill him, but we'll take him to the Heavenly Palace and let the 9 Supremes of the Heavenly Palace give us a solution. The ancient gods of the Heavenly Palace have said that even if you're from the Heavenly Palace, you can't bully others like this. Luo Zetian's voice fell. The divine power of the fire domain experts instantly enveloped Ning Tian. The flame-sealing Lion King instantly changed from looking at its masterpiece proudly to hiding in a corner in fear. Roar? What's going on? Did Master Lion get into trouble? Oh no, Master Lion is going to become a lion meat hotpot. Awu. Hearing the words of her uncle and the fire domain experts, Luo Wuqing frowned slightly. She understood what Luo Zetian meant. Once the core fire went berserk, the outcome would be unimaginable. But she still stood firmly in front of Ning Tian. She knew that her husband must have his reasons for doing so. He never did anything he wasn't confident in, and he never acted recklessly. Therefore, she believed in him. On the other side, Xingyang God frowned as he looked at the sea of fire. He wanted to save it, but it was too late. The power of the dismantle formula was too great. It had already pierced through the entire sea of lava. The core fire had begun to spread throughout the fire domain. In a few hours, the entire fire domain would be engulfed by the core fire. Upon seeing this, the eyes of Luo Zetian and the other powerhouses from the fire domain turned even redder. Their eyes were filled with anger as they glared at the person who had caused all this. However, Ning Tian, on the other hand, had a calm expression on her face. There was even a hint of a smile on her lips. This brat. Seeing this, Luo Zetian became even angrier. He gritted his teeth. Did this brat really think that he could do whatever he wanted just because he was from the Heavenly Palace? Phew, it's about time. At this rate, the core fire should be able to engulf the entire fire domain, right? At this moment, Ning Tian stretched and said casually. Instantly, this sentence ignited all the experts around him. This brat, how dare he make sarcastic remarks? Whoosh! In an instant, their anger was ignited, and a murderous intent gathered. Luo Zetian's eyes were red as divine power surged out of his body. His divine realm aura instantly enveloped Ning Tian. Brat, even if you are from the Heavenly Palace, you have no right to be so arrogant in the fire domain. The next moment, he attacked. Stop! Just as he was about to make his move, Xingyang Deity roared. Author's words. First update. Today I challenge 5 updates. Each chapter has to be at least 2,000 words, which means 5 chapters have to be 10,000 words. Chapter 524. Boom! Initially, Luo Zetian's body was shrouded in a terrifying divine power, but it was stopped by Sacred Sun God's words. He was only a 3-star heavenly god, while Sacred Sun God was at the peak of the heavenly god realm. Sacred Sun God was an expert who was infinitely close to the ancient god realm. Father! Luo Zetian stared at Sacred Sun God with his crimson eyes in confusion. Father, the fire domain has been destroyed by this boy. Are you still going to protect him? Once the core fire goes on a rampage, it will be difficult to stop it. This is the situation now. Have you forgotten that hundreds of years ago, when my sister caused the core fire to go on a rampage, the fire domain was almost destroyed? Father, you were able to stop it last time. What about this time? This time, it will be even more terrifying than the last time. This time, even you won't be able to stop it. Tens of millions of people in the fire domain will lose their lives because of this boy's madness. Luo Zetian was extremely agitated, and his eyes were filled with rage. The surrounding experts of the fire domain were also filled with righteous indignation. They were not targeting Ning Tian, but Ning Tian's actions had infuriated them. This concerned the entire fire domain. This concerned tens of millions of people in the fire domain. Hearing this, Sacred Sun God fell silent and frowned unconsciously. Sister? Luo Wuqing frowned. That's right. It's your mother and father. Luo Zetian glared at Luo Wuqing angrily. He looked at Luo Wuqing and saw a familiar face. It was as if he had overlapped with that person from the past. If it weren't for your crazy father dragging my sister along, the fire domain wouldn't be in this state. That rampage delayed the progress of the fire domain for hundreds of years. Your father is crazy. Your husband is also a madman. You, shut up. Just as Luo Zetian was about to say something, Sacred Sun God scolded him coldly. He stared at Luo Zetian and said, Zetian, enough is enough. Say no more. That was a few hundred years ago. Yes, father. Luo Zetian nodded unwillingly. Upon hearing Luo Zetian's words, Luo Wuqing frowned and her beautiful eyes were filled with doubt. Uncle, I don't know what happened in the past, but there's a saying that goes like this. A son pays for his father's debt. However, my wife's debt is mine. So, this time, I'll repay it all on behalf of my father-in-law. Just as the surroundings fell into silence, the smile on Ning Tian's face vanished as he looked at Luo Zetian with a solemn expression. Luo Zetian wanted to attack him, but he wasn't angry. Because any other person would be angry as well. Luo Zetian was not angry out of selfishness. He cared about the entire fire domain and the millions of people in the fire domain. This showed that Luo Zetian was a person worth befriending. If someone wanted to destroy your home, any random person would be angry. This was understandable. Luo Zetian just didn't know the whole story. Still, how are you going to pay me back? Luo Zetian sneered and glared angrily at Ning Tian. He pointed at the unstoppable sea of fire and said coldly, Could it be that you want to reverse the situation and destroy the entire fire domain? Is this what you mean by paying me back? Haha, what a joke. Uncle, you're right. I'm going to spread the earth core fire throughout the fire domain and destroy it. Hearing this, Ning Tian nodded seriously and said, F*CKU. Hearing this, Luo Zetian felt a sharp pain in his chest. This guy must be doing this on purpose. A group of experts from the fire domain gritted their teeth. If God Xingyang hadn't stopped them, they would have rushed up and captured Ning Tian. Because, at this moment, Ning Tian's voice rang out once again. He looked at everyone indifferently. His expression was calm, but his words were filled with confidence and left no room for doubt. Because I want the entire fire domain to be reborn from the ashes. Hundreds of years ago, if my father-in-law had caused the fire domain to stagnate for hundreds of years, then today, I'll pay you back for thousands of years of prosperity. As soon as he finished speaking, there was silence. All the experts from the fire domain, including God Xingyang, were stunned. My husband. Hearing Ning Tian's domineering words, Luo Wuqing's beautiful eyes flashed with a touch of emotion. Good boy. Although this stinky boy usually looks lazy, he can have such an expression when he's serious. God Xingyang looked at Ning Tian and frowned slightly. His attitude toward Ning Tian seemed to have changed. What's wrong with this guy? Could it be that he can really do it? Rebirth from the ashes? Can the fire domain really be reborn from the ashes? Luo Zetian was also stunned for a long time. When he came back to his senses, his eyes had already landed on Ning Tian. When he saw Ning Tian's serious expression and didn't seem to be joking at all, he couldn't help but fall silent. The fire domain, Could it really be reborn from the ashes? The experts from the fire domain were also stunned by Ning Tian's aura. A look of astonishment flashed in their eyes as they stared at Ning Tian. What was this boy trying to do? All right, stinky boy, what are you trying to do? God Xingyang looked at Ning Tian angrily while everyone was silent. Literally, I want the entire fire domain to be reborn from the ashes. Ning Tian looked at the experts from the fire domain calmly and said seriously, if you want to be reborn from the ashes, then you have to destroy the entire fire domain first. God Xingyang and the experts from the fire domain were confused when they heard this. Boy, do you have to destroy the fire domain? Can't you not destroy it? No. Ning Tian shook his head slightly and said earnestly, if you don't destroy it, how can you be reborn from the ashes? You have to build a new starting point from the ashes. Grandfather, you have to look further. You have to lose something to gain something. Stinky boy, how dare you lecture me? God Xingyang glared at Ning Tian when he heard this. What do you want to do? It's simple. Let the earth core fire cover the entire fire domain. Ning Tian's lips curled into a smile. He slowly raised his hand and a small cluster of holy flames appeared in his hand. It was the law of heavenly fire. Simple. God Xingyang's mouth twitched when he heard this. He glanced at the law of heavenly fire in Ning Tian's hand and said, even if you have the law of heavenly fire, it will be difficult. Do you know how big the fire domain is? The amount of spiritual qi needed is enormous. Is 10 spiritual Cs enough? However, before he could finish his sentence, Ning Tian's indifferent voice sounded. What did you say? God Xingyang was stunned. I said, is 10 spiritual Cs enough? Chapter 525. As soon as Ning Tian finished speaking, whoosh! Spiritual energy surged out of his body and 10 spiritual energy Cs appeared behind him. Each of them was tens of thousands of meters wide. Luo Zetian and the others were stunned by the dense spiritual energy. This kid, how can he have such a huge amount of spiritual energy? What a dense spiritual energy! Is the heavenly god constitution so freakish? Isn't this kid in the ancestral god realm? Why can't we see through his strength? Could it be that it's much more than that? The experts from the fire domain looked at the 10 spiritual energy Cs behind Ning Tian and couldn't help but feel puzzled. They couldn't see through Ning Tian's strength, but they could vaguely guess that Ning Tian was in the ancestral god realm. Because he was the 10th person in the heavenly palace. If he had appeared earlier, he would have been famous in the deity domain. Moreover, the young mistress had returned to the deity domain with him. Therefore, he must have been in the 9 domains before. What a dense spiritual energy! Seeing this, divine sun god frowned slightly. After being stunned for a moment, he stroked his beard and looked at Ning Tian with a smile. Brat, your 10 spiritual energy Cs are amazing, but, speaking of this, the corners of his mouth curled into a proud smile. The entire fire domain is beyond your imagination. Even if you have 10 spiritual energy Cs, you can only cover half of it. You won't be able to cover the other half. I see. Ning Tian chuckled, but he was not flustered at all. He still had an ultimate spirit C in his body, which was the size of all the other 10 spirit Cs added together. The first 10 were the ones he had accumulated in the 9 zones, while this one had been condensed in the heavenly palace for the past 2 years. However, he wouldn't use it. He had to keep some trump cards. He chuckled and looked at divine sun god with a smile. Since I can only cover half of the fire domain, I'll have to trouble grandfather to prepare some elixirs to replenish my spiritual energy. The corners of sacred sun god's mouth twitched when he heard this. He had originally thought that he would be able to make Ning Tian suffer. He was speechless as he looked at Ning Tian's smiling face. This kid was definitely doing it on purpose. All right, kid, hurry up. If you delay any longer, the fire territory will be completely destroyed by you. The sacred sun god looked helplessly at Ning Tian and hurriedly urged him. Don't worry. Everything is under my control. Ning Tian chuckled, his voice full of confidence. The moment he raised his hand, the law of heavenly fire shone, and the spirit sea behind him surged continuously, providing him with dense spiritual energy. System: use the heavenly fire law cultivation method. He muttered in his heart. Currently in use. The cultivation method of the heavenly fire laws and the formation that covers the entire fire domain have been engraved in the host's mind. Those who cultivate in the array can increase their cultivation speed, and part of the spiritual energy will be used to supplement the host's heavenly fire laws. The system's voice faded. In Ning Tian's mind, there was already an embryonic form of an array formation. Boom, boom, boom. The surrounding sea of fire had already begun to riot. The core fire spread across the entire fire territory. When Luo Zetian and the others saw this, they became even more anxious. However, it was useless to be anxious. Things had already developed to this stage, and it was no longer something they could interfere with. Now, they could only pin their hopes on Ning Tian. They could only hope Ning Tian could really make the entire fire territory rise from the ashes. Oh right, grandfather. At this moment, Ning Tian seemed to have thought of something. He tilted his head and looked at the sacred sun god. Grandfather, you have to be prepared. I can control the law of heavenly fire to prevent the core fire from destroying the people of the fire territory, but I can't control the buildings. Although I can, it's not necessary. It will waste my efficiency. So, you should be prepared to rebuild the buildings of the fire territory. Hearing this, the corners of the sacred sun god's mouth twitched. He looked at Ning Tian and said, Kid, are you kidding me? At this moment, Luo Zetian and the experts of the fire territory could almost hear the sound of the sacred sun god's heart breaking. One had to know that rebuilding the buildings of the fire territory was equivalent to burning money. Even if one was rich, one shouldn't be so wasteful. You stinking brat! Do the 9 primes of the heavenly palace know that you're such a wastrel? The sacred sun god said angrily. Maybe. Anyway, more than half of the heavenly palace has been rebuilt. Ning Tian said faintly. He then continued to control the law of heavenly fire to guide the flow of the core fire. Hearing this, the sacred sun god's expression suddenly changed. However, he didn't know why, but when he heard that the heavenly palace had been destroyed, he suddenly felt better. However, this kid dared to destroy the heavenly palace. He was really a wolf. At this moment, in the entire fire territory, all the people of the fire territory widened their eyes. They looked at the sea of fire in the sky with fear in their eyes. That day, the people of the fire territory finally remembered the fear of being controlled by the sea of fire. Hundreds of years ago, the same thing had happened. The core fire had suddenly gone berserk, and in just a few hours, half of the fire realm had been engulfed in it. The fire realm had suffered heavy losses, and countless people had died. In the end, the core fire had been stopped by the divine power of the sacred sun god. But today, the core fire was going berserk again. The scene was exactly the same. In fact, its power was even greater than before. The earth core fire is once again causing trouble in the fire region. Could it be that the fire region was born because of the fire and will die because of the fire? At that moment, countless citizens of the fire region raised their heads and looked at the sky, their eyes filled with despair. Children cried. Elders shed tears. Those who were strong could do nothing about it. However, at this moment, a voice rang out and then resounded throughout the entire fire domain. All people of the fire territory, listen to my command. Circulate your spiritual energy and stay away from the buildings. The core fire will ignore you. The voice was loud and clear, but with a trace of unquestionable majesty. This is not the voice of the fire territory master. Then should we do it? When they heard the voice, all the people of the fire domain were stunned. They hesitated for a moment, but when they saw the earth core fire, which was right in front of them, they instantly trembled. They didn't dare to hesitate and quickly circulated their spirit energy. At the same time, the blazing earth core fire spread over, completely ignoring their existence. It's working. Many people widened their eyes when they saw this scene. They were shocked and confused. How could the core fire ignore them when they circulated their spiritual energy? All of this was because of Ning Tian's perception. He used his spiritual energy to control the heavenly fire law, and the heavenly fire law drove the core fire. To avoid the people of the fire territory, he only needed to sense their spiritual energy. This was the simplest and most efficient way. Soon the core fire spread throughout the fire territory. The temperature of the fire territory reached its peak. Countless buildings were swallowed by the sea of fire. Countless people of the fire territory watched this scene with trembling hearts. After a few hours, the core fire covered the entire fire territory. Boom, boom, at this moment, there was a tremor in the sky. All the experts and people of the fire territory looked up and their faces changed instantly. What was that? Author's words. There are 2 more updates. Chapter 526. A flaming figure appeared in the sky. It was millions of meters tall and stood in the middle of the blaze domain. It was enough to overlook the entire blaze domain. All the experts in the blaze domain were not even ants in front of that figure. The flaming figure seemed to treat the entire blaze domain as a chessboard. With a slight movement of his hand, the core fire that covered the entire blaze domain was under his control. Is that the blaze domain master's fire celestial body? But even the blaze domain master's fire celestial body is not at this level. Then who is the person controlling this fire celestial body? At this moment, everyone in the blaze domain was looking at the flaming figure that was millions of meters tall. Their eyes were filled with deep respect and fear. Even the ancestor gods felt an endless sense of oppression in front of that enormous figure. Above the blaze domain, divine sun god, Luo Wuching, and the others were standing in the void. When they saw this scene, their eyes were filled with astonishment. Just a moment ago, a flame suddenly appeared on Ning Tian's body. Then, he casually said something about setting up a flame-covered formation. Then, he became like this. So big, a group of experts in the blaze domain was dumbfounded. This fire celestial body, even father, you can't do it, right? Luo Zetian swallowed his saliva and said with some difficulty, this kid, what kind of tricks does he have, and what is he trying to do? Off to the side, Saint Sun God frowned and fell into silence. Ning Tian's fire celestial body had truly shocked him. Could it be was the heavenly god body so heaven-defying? Grandfather, uncle, now we just need to believe in our husband. He did this because he was confident. Luo Wuching held the death bell that Ning Tian had given her. Her beautiful eyes were fixed on the enormous flaming figure. Divine Sun God and Luo Zetian nodded slightly. They had no other choice but to believe in Ning Tian. Oh, fellow Taoist Ning, didn't you turn into light and turn into fire? At this time, Bai Lu crawled out from the death bell and looked at this scene in a daze. Then, she curled her lips and said, forget it, I don't like fire. I'll continue to cultivate. After that, she crawled back again. Everyone! Hey! Lady, did you come out just to act cute? Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, Ning Tian, who had turned into a blazing figure millions of meters in size, was raising his hand and constantly controlling the spreading flames. Vaguely, every time he urged, he could drive a burst of spirit energy. This brat is indeed drawing a formation. Seeing this, Sacred Sun God's eyes flashed as he muttered to himself. This kid is even crazier than his father-in-law. This is the formation that can cover the entire fire domain. Could it be that this kid was also an array master? That's crazy. At this moment, the eyes of everyone in the fire domain fell on Ningtian. They were about to witness a magnificent feat that would last for eternity. Phew, Ningtian, who had turned into a blazing figure millions of meters in size, let out a long sigh of relief. The reason he could become like this was because of the ability of setting up a formation. He wanted to set up a formation that could cover the entire fire domain. Not only did he need enough energy, but he also needed a big enough body. Now, he was using the entire fire domain as a formation plate and drawing a heavenly fire formation that could cover the entire fire domain. 3 fires in the east, 3 fires in the west, upper fire in the north, lower fire in the south. He began to set up the formation according to the formation diagram in his mind. Boom, 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 the entire fire domain was filled with raging flames. Under Ningtian's guidance, the earth flame began to spread in all directions. Everyone watched as a flame formation gradually took shape. A few days passed. The huge figure standing in the fire domain was still guiding the formation day and night. The aura of the entire fire domain gradually changed. Everyone watched Ningtian's actions. Their eyes, which had been filled with fear at the beginning, were now filled with awe. They understood. This blazing figure was setting up a formation for the future of the fire domain. Over the past few days, countless people of the fire domain had learned the true identity of this blazing giant. He was the young mistress's husband, and Ningtian's words, that he wanted the fire domain to last for a long time, had spread throughout the entire fire domain. This brat. He actually held on for several days. Seeing this scene, sacred sun god's turbid eyes flashed with a trace of seriousness. Under such circumstances, it was a miracle that he could hold on for several days. This brat is a real man. Wuqing, I take back what I said before. Uncle was too impulsive. Beside him, Luo Zetian looked at Ningtian with a complicated expression. Then, he spoke to Luo Wuqing with a trace of apology. Behind him, the experts of the fire domain looked at Ningtian with a trace of admiration. It was obvious. Ningtian's actions had completely convinced them. Luo Wuqing shook her head slightly, indicating that it was fine. Her beautiful eyes were still fixed on Ningtian, and there was a trace of heartache in her eyes. Holding on for several days was too taxing on her husband. Zetian, take out all the divine herbs of the fire domain and help this brat. At this moment, Saint Sun Deity said faintly. Yes, father. Luo Zetian nodded heavily. The experts of the fire domain behind him had no objections. At this time, they had completely acknowledged Ningtian. Ningtian was worth their efforts. When all the divine herbs of the endless fire domain fell into the blazing figure, the speed at which Ningtian was setting up the formation increased significantly. In the blink of an eye, another few days passed. The commotion in the fire domain had alarmed the surrounding forces. Many of them were hiding outside the fire domain. They looked at the scene with a trace of astonishment in their eyes. When they realized that the fire shadow wasn't Xing Sun God, but the husband of the fire domain's young mistress, the expressions on their faces became very interesting. The fire domain was an ancient god going to be born? Finally, a few days later, under the expectant gazes of countless experts and citizens of the fire domain, as well as the attention of countless factions around the fire domain, the 1,000,000-meter-tall flaming figure finally completed the finishing touch. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, the earth flame, which covered the entire fire domain, suddenly exploded with a burst of rich spiritual energy. The formation that covered the entire fire domain was finally completed. It's over. Everyone's hearts trembled. They were shocked. In the sky, the huge flaming figure slowly dissipated, and a somewhat tired voice sounded at this moment. Fortunately, I did not disappoint. The fire domain I was talking about will never decline. I did it. Chapter 527. It seems like There is still a long way to go before I can fully unleash the power of the hearts of the three clans. Ning Tian let out a long sigh of relief and slowly retreated from the small world in his dantian. At this moment, the entire fire domain was filled with flames. Even the spiritual energy in the air had become denser. Everyone in the fire domain was immersed in the joy of having their spiritual energy doubled. This brat, he really wants our fire domain to flourish for a long time, Saint Sun God could not help but sigh. Hundreds of years ago, Luo Wuqing's father caused the earth core fire to riot, causing the fire domain to stagnate for hundreds of years. Today, 100 years later, his son-in-law had personally returned the favor to the fire domain. That's right, Luo Zetian and the others also sighed. By the way, father, have you told Wu Qing about little sister and the others? Luo Zetian seemed to have thought of something and asked softly. Saint Sun God fell silent. He looked at the two people hugging in the sky and shook his head slightly. There is no need to say more. My precious granddaughter has more or less found out by herself. What awaits her next is just a test. Luo Zetian nodded slightly. In the sky, Ning Tian heaved a sigh of relief when he sensed that the heavenly fire technique in his body was gradually changing under the influence of the great heavenly fire array. He also felt a sense of powerlessness in his body. Fortunately, Luo Wuqing, who was beside him, supported him. Husband, you are tired. Go back to your room and rest. Luo Wuqing's cold voice sounded beside his ear. In the next moment, a void energy appeared above her delicate body. She pulled Ning Tian into the void. In the blink of an eye, a boudoir appeared in front of him. The layout of the room was similar to that of the Tianma cult's general's room. This was Luo Wuqing's room in Luo City. Wife, you brought me here? Ning Tian was stunned and looked at Luo Wuqing in confusion. However, she did not say anything. She only pulled Ning Tian over and pressed him onto the bed. With a serious expression, she said, Husband, you've used up too much spirit qi. Rest well. As she spoke, she forcefully pushed Ning Tian onto the bed and carefully tucked him in. Take a rest first. While you're resting, I'll also transfer spirit energy to you. Seeing his cold wife suddenly become gentle, Ning Tian was stunned for a few seconds. Smelling the fragrance and looking at the graceful figure, he suddenly wanted to do something bad. Therefore, he seriously looked at Luo Wuqing. Honey, I want to do something bad. Ning Tian, this child, had been honest since he was young. He didn't have any bad intentions at all. Luo Wuqing froze for a moment, then rolled his eyes at him. You're already like this. Don't think too much. Rest early. Actually, I can take some elixirs to recover some of my strength. As Ning Tian spoke, he took out the elixirs that he had scammed from Xing Sun God. After all, his grandfather was the ruler of a region. He would definitely have a lot of elixirs and elixirs. The more he scammed, the easier it would be to help Xing Sun God. After all, if the old didn't go, the new wouldn't come. Seeing this scene, Luo Wuqing couldn't help but smile helplessly. Her husband was still the same husband. Then, she fell silent for a moment. Her cold face actually flushed red. Looking at Ning Tian, she leaned over and whispered in his ear, Husband, it wasn't easy to scam you. Don't waste it. Good girl, this time, let me take the initiative, huh? Ning Tian was shocked. Then, under his shocked gaze, a touch of softness pressed against him. What the F***ck? I've been pushed down by my first wife? In the blink of an eye, 7 days had passed. The people of the entire Endless Fire territory were immersed in the pleasure of the accelerated spiritual energy in their cultivation. But soon, they realized a very serious problem, that was, their home was gone. In the entire Fire territory, there was no other building except for Luo City. Hence, after a heartache, Xingyang God could only call on all the people of the Fire territory to build a new home. In these few days, the changes in the Fire territory had also spread to the forces near the God realm. Many experts had heard about the changes in the fire territory. When they stopped outside the fire territory and saw the array that covered the entire fire territory, their expressions were very interesting. The entire fire territory was burning with flames. The array was in operation. Even if they weren't in it, they could feel the rich spiritual energy flowing. Suddenly they were envious and jealous. With such an array of heaven and earth, the fire territory would become even stronger. Many experts from the God realm had even rushed here just to find out who had built this array that covered the entire fire territory. However, just as they were about to pay their respects to Xingyang God, a lion cub was thrown out under the gaze of a group of experts. Awu, the ceiling flame lion king cursed with an aggrieved expression. Wasn't it just a newly built toilet? Did they have to throw Master Lion King out? Taking advantage of the ancestral master's absence, they were bullying a lion. Roar! He curled his lips and was about to go to the nearby demonic beast forest to have some fun. However, before he could move, he suddenly felt dozens of gazes on him. Immediately, the fur on his body stood on end. Roar! It turned its body mechanically and saw a group of experts looking at it with shining eyes in the sky. Little lion, you came from the fire territory, didn't you? At this moment, among the group of experts, a white-haired elder looked at the ceiling flame lion king and asked with a kind smile. Seeing this familiar smile, the ceiling flame lion king trembled. He had often seen this smile on the ancestral master's face. He quickly nodded. Then, do you know who created this array that covers the entire fire domain? The white-haired old man continued to ask. The gazes of the surrounding experts all turned towards him. To be able to build such an array, one had to be an almighty or an array master. In any case, it had to be an almighty. However, they had never heard of it. Roar, roar, the ceiling flame lion king fell silent. After hesitating for a moment, he took out a small notebook and quickly wrote the word lion. He raised the brush with his small paw and started to write. Then, he picked up the small notebook and placed it in front of the group of experts. Seeing this, the group of experts looked over and gradually frowned. Sky Palace? Ancestral Master? Eternal God? What does this mean? The white-haired elder frowned and looked at the ceiling flame lion king in confusion. The surrounding experts also looked serious because they saw the two words Sky Palace. That was a nightmarish force. You mean to say that this formation was set up by the patriarch of the Celestial Palace? The white-haired elder looked at the ceiling flame lion king. Roar! The ceiling flame lion king nodded repeatedly. Sky Palace. Ancestral Master, it seems that the 10th person of the Sky Palace has appeared. This ancestral master can build such an array that covers the entire fire territory. It seems that he is also an almighty. The Sky Palace is getting more and more terrifying. Let's go back to the Middle State region. The white-haired elder sighed and then left with the group of experts with a serious expression. Roar! Seeing the group leave, the ceiling flame lion king heaved a sigh of relief. Damn! I almost lost my life. After a long sigh of relief, he headed toward the nearby demonic beast forest. He had to see the lionesses every day. There was no other reason other than to make Master Lion happy. Chapter 528. And because of a certain lion, the title of the 10th person of the Heavenly Palace, the Patriarch, was spread. Although many experts were puzzled by the title of Patriarch, but they did not feel too conflicted. After all, the Heavenly Palace was filled with monsters. They were all inhuman. Perhaps the title of Patriarch was a new title after the 9 Supremes of the Heavenly Palace. Heavenly Palace. Tisk tsk. I didn't expect Junior Brother to be above us all of a sudden. Patriarch of the Heavenly Palace. This is quite sudden. Yi Wuyo sighed. Pei Hu and the others also shook their heads helplessly. Patriarch of the Heavenly Palace, who was the one who said that? All of a sudden, It felt like the patriarch of the 9 supremes of the heavenly palace was taken advantage of by Yi Wuyo. However, they could not blame Little Lion and the others for this. What bad intentions could Little Lion and the others have? Little Lion and the others only felt that the patriarch was a religion. Let's leave it at that. Junior brother did well. How long has it been since he left the mountain, and his name has already spread throughout the divine region? At least he's better than you, the unparalleled guest of the brothel, Yi Shuang said indifferently. She seemed to have thought of something and could not help but glare at Yi Wuyo. Cough, cough, eldest senior sister, that's all in the past. Yi Wuyo coughed dryly and his face turned red. But junior brother is also very impressive to be able to cast a formation that covers the entire fire region. Wen Qing laughed softly. Sigh, that's simple. Yi Wuyo expressed that it was fine as long as he had hands. Can you do it at the ancestor god realm? 8th junior brother, Wen Qing asked with a smile. Cough. At that time I did not have hand. Yi Wuyo coughed dryly. Alright, stop joking around. At this time, Yi Wuyo looked at everyone. Since junior brother has gained a firm foothold in the divine region, let's go to the soul world. Master alone cannot stop them. We must go. We cannot let those fellows break through the soul world. Wen Qing, Pei Hu, and the others nodded seriously. Luo City. In the room, 2 figures were moving. It was a proper spiritual energy movement. Phew. Ning Tian let out a long sigh of relief and slowly opened his eyes. Spirit Qi also quietly flowed out. After a few days of special recovery, he could feel that the spirit Qi that he had consumed was almost back. The spirit Sea gathered once again. Honey, thank you for your hard work, Ning Tian said softly. Looking at Luo Wuqing lying beside him with gentle eyes, he gently helped her tidy up her sweaty and messy hair. It's all right. Luo Wuqing waved his hand slightly, but he could still see that it was quite tiring to actively transmit spirit energy. In this way, although I've consumed a little spirit qi, my strength has increased instead. Could this be considered a blessing in disguise? Ning Tian stretched himself with a satisfied expression because his strength had improved to the 2nd star of the universe enlightened ancestral god realm during these 7 days of spirit energy circulation. Wife, how's your comprehension of the heavenly fire laws coming along? Ning Tian looked at Luo Wuqing and asked. Yes, I've succeeded in comprehending it. Luo Wuqing nodded slightly and raised her hand. A small amount of heavenly fire flickered in her hand, emitting a scorching heat. Due to her sacred sun body, her heavenly fire was even brighter. It contained a trace of sacred sun energy. Not bad. You've mastered the heavenly fire laws in just 7 days. As expected of my wife. Ning Tian smiled and a small amount of heavenly fire appeared in his hand. With the support of the heavenly fire array, his heavenly fire was also growing stronger with each passing day. Come, honey, give me your hand. Luo Wuqing was puzzled for a moment and then extended her hand. Ning Tian grabbed the soft and boneless hand and then chuckled. A warm energy emerged from his palm. He gently rubbed Luo Wuqing's palm and said softly, Don't struggle. Luo Wuqing nodded slightly and said, soon. As Ning Tian rubbed her palm, a warm energy was also transmitted. Luo Wuqing could not help but feel a little strange. Suddenly, a strange snort sounded in the quiet room. Suddenly, the atmosphere became awkward. Honey, are you feeling very comfortable? Ning Tian was still holding Luo Wuqing's hand and looked at her with a teasing expression. No. Luo Wuqing's face turned red and then returned to its cold state. She was a little suspicious. Was this guy doing it on purpose? No, you are. I'm not. No, you are. I'm not. Thus, the husband and wife continued their daily conversation. However, after Luo Wuqing implemented the Luo clan's punishment, Ning Tian was defeated. He raised his head from the fragrant embrace and coughed dryly. Cough, just now it was actually a kind of sharing technique. If my heavenly fire is stronger, then your heavenly fire will also be stronger. Now that he had the great heavenly fire array, it was enough to make Ning Tian's heavenly fire law grow stronger day by day. With such benefits, he naturally would not forget Luo Wuqing, who had been with him all this time. Benefits. They had to be shared by husband and wife. It was the same for happiness. Humph! Luo Wuqing coldly snorted and then released Ning Tian from her embrace. This also allowed Ning Tian to finally breathe in a breath of fresh air without the smell of milk. It was not that he did not like the Luo clan's punishment. It was enough to wash his face a few times. After all, he was really dizzy. What do you plan to do next? Find Yu Yao? Luo Wuqing looked at Ning Tian and asked. No, Ning Tian shook his head slightly. What? You don't want a concubine anymore? Haha. Well, of course I want to be your wife. Ning Tian laughed and pulled Luo Wuqing into his embrace. He continued, however, according to eldest senior sister, there is no rush with Yu Yao. The nine-tailed fox is going to give her a fox demon inheritance. It is best not to disturb her during the inheritance. Let's get down to business first. Oh. Hearing this, Luo Wuqing's lips curled into a contemptuous smile. She grabbed the mischievous hand and said in a cold voice, Is this the business you are talking about? Ahaha. Now that she was caught red-handed, Ning Tian decided to take action. If it were anyone else who was caught red-handed, they would definitely give up. However, he was different. Since he was caught, he simply let loose. As expected of the ancestral master. Let's make a trip to the heavenly demon cult in God's domain and sort out your thoughts first. Ning Tian was talking about serious matters while doing serious things at the same time. She had a tight grasp of time. Okay. Luo Wuqing's beautiful eyes flashed with a trace of embarrassment. Then, she replied somewhat awkwardly. Who would have thought that such a fiery passion would be hidden under her cold exterior? Unfortunately, this passion could only be felt by Ning Tian. One day later. Luo City Great Hall. In the Great Hall, Ning Tian and Luo Wuqing sat at the side and looked at the Xingyang god. Grandfather, I remember that your Luo City Great Hall was not destroyed. Why did you renovate it? There is one more update. I am stuck. I don't know how to write. My head is in a daze. Chapter 529. What? You little brat. I have worked hard for the Blaze Realm my entire life. Can't I enjoy myself? Do you know how long it has been since the last time these things were changed? I am doing this to treat my guests well in the future. Otherwise, people will think that the Blaze Realm is poor. The divine sun god snorted coldly and picked up his cup of tea to savor it. Is that so? Ning Tian smiled playfully and pointed at a leather sofa. A sofa made from the skin of an ancestor god realm beast. Not bad. After all, it has a hidden massage function. Pfft. Hearing this, Xingyang Empyrean god spat out his tea. Also, although this soul-enchanting incense can clear one's mind, if you add some condiments into it, it might trigger some dreams. For example, a beautiful dream. Before Ning Tian could finish his sentence, Sacred Sun Heavenly God's face turned red and he coughed dryly, interrupting him. Ahem, holy shit. How did this brat know? Oh, grandfather, are you going to use these to treat your guests? Ning Tian looked at the divine sun god with a half-smile, his eyes full of ridicule. You little brat. Come with me. The divine sun god glared at Ning Tian. Seeing that this guy had no intention of stopping, he quickly pulled Ning Tian to a corner and gritted his teeth. Brat, what are you trying to do? Nothing. I don't have any bad intention. I am just speaking the truth. Ning Tian shrugged and said innocently. You motherf asterisk cur. The grumpy divine sun god almost cursed out loud. But at this moment, he just happened to see Luo Wuqing looking at them with a puzzled expression. Instantly, he lost his momentum. Gritting his teeth, He took out a large number of pills from his storage ring and handed them over. Here you go. Don't mention it again. Ning Tian took the elixirs with a smile. He still had no intention of taking them back. F***ck. Brat, you're ruthless. Seeing this, the Xingyang heavenly deity cursed. However, on second thought, it was better to sacrifice some medicinal pills than to lose face in front of his precious granddaughter. Still, he was not happy to be cheated by this brat. Next, under Ning Tian's smiling gaze, Empyrean deity Xingyang bled a great deal. Alright, you stinking brat. You're going to scam all of this deity's wealth. Hurry up and scram. Empyrean deity Xing's son glared at Ning Tian. In that case, Grandpa, you still have stock? Ning Tian's eyes lit up as he looked at Xingyang Empyrean god innocently. Fuck, no more. Get lost. Xingyang heavenly god cursed. Other people's grandsons and grandsons were all thinking about how to show filial piety to their grandfathers. Why was it that when it came to this guy, all he was thinking about was how to cheat him of his elixirs? He's so filial. His precious granddaughter was still the best. She even gave him the comprehension of the heavenly fire laws. However, what he didn't know was that his comprehension of the heavenly fire laws was actually given to him by his grandson-in-law, who had caused him to die of filial piety. Ning Tian patted the storage ring on his hand with satisfaction. After scamming so much, he finally didn't need to refine elixirs himself. Although he could refine elixirs himself, what could be better than the ones he scammed? Oh right, Grandpa, don't go to the Wanbao Pavilion to buy these things in the future. Because the Wanbao Pavilion was secretly opened by my 8th senior brother. With that, Ning Tian smiled and turned around. Xingyang heavenly god touched his chin and murmured, no wonder this kid could tell at a glance. It turns out that there is also a decent person like me among the 9 supremes of the heavenly palace. The Wanbao Pavilion was the largest shop in the divinity's dominion for forging items. Among them, there was a decent item that was specifically for male cultivators. Ahem, Xingyang heavenly god coughed and looked at the two of them. Since you're here today, you must be preparing to leave, right? Yes. Luo Wuqing nodded slightly. She had already made plans with Ning Tian. Today, they would leave for the Tianma cult in the divinity's dominion to verify some of her ideas. All right. Xingyang heavenly god nodded and then sighed. Sigh, this precious granddaughter of mine is like water that has been spilled. She will never come back. Grandpa, don't worry. Water that has been spilled will be repaid. For example, she will give birth to 2 great-granddaughters for you. Ning Tian smiled and looked at Xingyang heavenly god. He was always good at adding insult to injury. You, Xingyang heavenly god took a deep breath and said angrily, hurry up and get lost. Haha. Oh right, where is Sha Tian? Ning Tian seemed to have thought of someone who did not have a presence. I threw him out. At this time, a low voice sounded. Luo Zetian walked in from outside the hall with a gloomy face. He gritted his teeth and looked unhappy. Ning Tian and Luo Wuqing were stunned. Before they could say anything, Luo Zetian said with an aggrieved face. That stinky lion said that he wanted to show me the word dismantling art. Forget about the show, this bastard chose a place, the toilet. Do you know how it feels? The moment the golden word dismantling appeared, the toilet exploded. The toilet exploded. It exploded and then, Luo Zetian's eyes seemed to have lost their light. When he saw the word dismantling and the result of the toilet explosion, he was dumbfounded. Hearing this, Ning Tian and Luo Wuqing could not help but laugh inexplicably. Sigh, this Sha Tian is so inhumane. It seems that I have to teach him a good lesson. Ning Tian sighed. That's right. I must teach it. Luo Zetian agreed. However, before he could finish, he heard Ning Tian say seriously, it looks like I'll have to teach it a movement technique. Next time when we're tearing down the toilet, at least it can escape on its own. Luo Zetian was confused. Damn it. What was he expecting? Expecting Ning Tian to be a human? Only then did he remember that Ning Tian was not human at all. Just as everyone was silent, a small lion swaggered in from outside the main hall. It looked very satisfied. When it saw that everyone in the main hall was looking at it, it let out a puzzled cry. Roar? Soon, according to the memories of the people of Luo City, the lion roared very miserably. In the sky. The void ship appeared in the sky. Ning Tian and Luo Wuqing stood on the deck of the ship, while the sealed Flame Lion King was lying on the side. Why was it not sitting? Because its butt was injured, so it could only lie on its side. Grandpa, let's go. Ning Tian waved at Xingyang God, but Xingyang God ignored him. He looked at his precious granddaughter and said tearfully, My precious granddaughter, have a safe trip. When you get there, if you need anything, just say my name. Grandpa, we're not dead yet. Luo Wuqing held his forehead helplessly. Okay, let's go. Ning Tian stretched and controlled the void ship to slowly rise into the sky. Their target was the Tianma cult of the Divine Dominion. The Tianma cult of the Divine Dominion was located in the Divine Dominion's largest and most powerful region, the Zhongzhou region. Chapter 530. Experts gathered in the Middle Continent region. It was the largest region in the entire God realm. All kinds of forces gathered here. Above the sky, there was a roar as the space fluctuated. Then, a black battleship slowly emerged from the void. Phew, we finally came out of the void. I have to say, the fire domain is quite far from the Middle Continent region. On the deck, Ning Tian looked down and could not help but heave a long sigh of relief. Ever since they had left the fire domain, they had stayed in the void for dozens of days. Apart from cultivating and taking a couple's bath, they had nothing else to do. It was truly a little boring. After all, the patriarch was a serious person who had to do serious things. Well, the God realm is an unknown place compared to the 9 domains. Moreover, the God realm is limited by divine power. It will be slower to operate the void. Luo Wuqing nodded slightly. At this moment, her pretty face was cold, but her skin was tender. It seemed that cultivation was good. The Middle Continent region is different from the fire domain. It is not only much bigger than the fire domain, but also not controlled by the Luo family. The entire Middle Continent region is very vast and there are all kinds of forces. Husband, we have to be careful. Okay. Ning Tian nodded slightly. He had never been a troublemaker. Sha Tian, when we arrive at the Middle Continent region, you better behave. Don't tear it down, okay? Ning Tian glared at the Lion King and warned. Roar? Hearing this, the Lion King was stunned. Then he looked at the crooked lion-shaped words in the small book and fell into deep thought. There were words written in the small book. The patriarch said that if the patriarch said no, then yes. If the patriarch said yes, then yes. In short, I want all of them. In that case, if you don't tear it down, then tear it down hard? Roar, roar. In an instant, Sha Tian understood. He nodded heavily and promised to complete the task given by the patriarch. Kiki, the Middle Continent region, tremble under the Lion King's tear. The Middle Continent region, the Central Star region. The entire realm of Middle Continent was very large, so it was divided into 4 small star areas, namely the North, South, East, West, and the Central Star area, which was the largest in the middle. Central Starfield City. On the streets, there was an endless stream of horses and carriages, people coming and going, and the cries of various peddlers could be heard incessantly. This was the most prosperous city in the entire Central Starfield. In front of a shop selling divine artifacts, the peddler was very excited. This was because when he saw the 2 people in front of him, he knew that he would be able to make a lot of money today. After that, he would be able to go to the flowery house to have some fun. The 2 people in front of him. The young man was dressed in black, and his aura was restrained. It was obvious that he was a young master from a wealthy family. The woman beside him was even more beautiful. Even though she was wearing a long dress made of fire, her face was cold, and it created a strong contrast between her and her appearance. Honey, what do you think of this earring? Ning Tian pointed to a pair of earrings and looked at Luo Wuqing with a smile. It's all right. Luo Wuqing glanced at it, but he was not very tempted. Sir, this is a pair of earrings made of Ice Emperor jade. Although it is not a divine artifact, it is still a peak immortal artifact. If you give it to the lady beside you, she will definitely like it. However, the price is a little expensive. At this time, the peddler smiled. The moment he opened his mouth, it was obvious that he was an old profiteer. In his eyes, Ning Tian was a rich fool who was chasing after a lady. After all, he did not understand the word wife. Is that so? Ning Tian laughed. As the saying goes, 1,000 gold coins can make a beauty smile. It doesn't matter. The last thing I lack is money. Young master is generous. With young master's peerless temperament, this lady will definitely be tempted. Hearing Ning Tian's words, the peddler's eyes lit up and he quickly said, How much is this Ice Emperor jade earring? I'll take it. Ning Tian looked at the peddler with a smile. That kind smile suddenly made the peddler feel that this was more than a business transaction. With his many years of experience in business, the young man in front of him smiled like he was bathing in the breeze. He certainly did not have any bad intentions. Young master, this earring is not expensive. It is only 50 million spirit coins. 50 million is indeed not expensive. Ning Tian touched his chin. His storage rings were full of spirit coins. At least, he had more than 1 billion spirit coins. The main thing was that he did not need money at all. Even if he had money, he would not be able to use it. Alas, this feeling was really too uncomfortable. Hearing this, the peddler's eyes lit up and he smiled. Sir, I like to cheat. I like rich young masters like you. You are generous. Do you want to transfer these 50 million spirit coins to the storage ring or directly? But, however, before he could finish his words, Ning Tian's voice sounded again. He looked at the peddler with a smile. I don't think this Ice Emperor jade is the best quality you said, right? The peddler was stunned for a moment. Looking at Ning Tian's smile, he suddenly realized that something was wrong. He was shocked. What the f***ck? How did this kid know? You have shocked the profiteer. Reward, truth or dare? Truth or dare. Within 7 days, under the gaze of the host, there will be no lies. Remark. This world is full of falsehood, so we have to make the world more sincere. In his mind, the system's voice sounded. Oh, interesting. The corner of Ning Tian's mouth lifted slightly. A strange purple light flashed in his eyes. Then, he looked at the peddler. At this moment, the peddler was still in a daze. However, on second thought, he thought about how to smooth things over. Ahaha, this young master knows how to joke. Our store uses the trashiest Ice Emperor jade. Halfway through his words, he was stunned for a moment and swallowed his saliva. No, that's what I meant. I mean, those who bought my weapon said it was good. There has never been a bad review because they are all dead. The peddler was petrified. This young master, I beg you. I won't take your money. Take this and leave quickly. He looked at Ning Tian and Luo Wuqing with pleading eyes. At this time, what he said was still the truth. If he continued to speak like this, his store would close down. This is what you said. Ning Tian's mouth curved into a smile. Then, he took the earring and left with Luo Wuqing. Looking at the two figures leaving, the peddler slowly opened his mouth. This is the best Ice Emperor jade. Our store doesn't have a bad review. Strange I can say it. What the hell is going on? The peddler's heart was already set off a stormy sea. He was confused. At this time, Ning Tian and Luo Wuqing had already left. Husband, if this Ice Emperor jade is of inferior quality, why do you still want it? Luo Wuqing held Ning Tian's hand. That softness was still touching. She looked at Ning Tian with some puzzlement. Author's words, the state is really bad. The main reason is that I really can't stop updating. If I stop updating, this book will be wasted. I'm already slowly adjusting my state. Sorry, there are still 2 more chapters. Chapter 531. Well, seeing his wife's puzzled expression, Ning Tian chuckled. Just as he was about to explain, the system's voice sounded in his mind again. You've shocked the nameless merchant. Reward. Random event function card. Introduction. When an unknown event occurs, this function card will be randomly converted into a practical item. Random event function card. System, you've finally come up with something new. Hearing the system's voice in his mind, Ning Tian's lips curled up slightly. He silently put away the random event function card, then picked up the Ice Emperor jade earrings and slowly said, although this Ice Imperial jade earring is of the lowest quality, there is a saying in the world of Ice Imperial jade. It is to sacrifice the majority of the advantages in exchange for the best. And this piece of Ice Emperor jade has an extremely small piece of it that's the best jade. Didn't we find out that the Tianma cult in the domain of the gods is located in the coldest place in the central starfield? And this Ice Emperor jade is produced in the coldest place in the central starfield, so I wanted to try out the coldness there in advance. Ning Tian chuckled. They had arrived at the central galactic sector several hours ago and arrived at the galactic city. It could be said that they had found out the approximate location of the heavenly demon cult in the godly domain, and since he had coincidentally seen the frost jade pendant, he wanted to get a feel for it beforehand. At the very least, he could be prepared. But how do you know so much about it? Luo Wuqing looked at him. My 8th senior brother taught me. Ning Tian spread his hands. Among the 9 supremes of the heavenly palace, 8th senior brother Yi Wuyo was the most frivolous. It would be great if 8th senior brother could be as serious as him. So you're saying that this earring isn't for me? However, at this moment, Luo Wuqing's hands slightly tightened. Originally, she was holding Ning Tian with one hand, but now she hugged his hand with both hands and looked at him kindly. Seeing this scene, the fire-sealing Lion King beside them widened its eyes in excitement, ready to watch a good show. It had appeared. A kind couple. Ao, it seemed that only the great matriarch could punish the patriarch. Cough, feeling the soft pain in his hand, Ning Tian let out a dry cough. Thinking about it carefully, other than the chest girdle that he had taken from the Death Overlord, he didn't seem to have given his wife anything else. The main reason was that Luo Wuqing had always been very strong and very cold. Ning Tian couldn't help but forget that she was just a little girl in front of him. How could I give such an inferior pendant to my wife? He laughed. Once I've gathered all the materials, I'll forge one myself. Oh, honey, you have to believe me. I'm a blacksmith master. Is that so? Then I look forward to it. As the two of them spoke, they squeezed into the street, leaving a little lion cub standing there in a daze. Roar? Sha Tian blinked his eyes. It seemed that things weren't like that. Some of the lions cried as they watched. The clown was actually me? In the Starfield City, the lineup of 2 people and 1 lion attracted the attention of many passing cultivators. All kinds of exclamations kept sounding. Look, the 2 of them are a perfect match. If only I were as handsome as them, that would be great. You? Don't worry, dear. You don't look like... At this moment, Ning Tian inadvertently glanced over. The female cultivator's tone suddenly changed. You're uglier? But that doesn't stop me from loving old Wang. The male cultivator was stunned and his face turned green. At this moment, Ning Tian's gaze inadvertently shifted away. Dear, listen to me. It's not what you think. The female cultivator's voice sounded, but Ning Tian and the others had already walked far away and couldn't hear it. Wherever the patriarch's gaze went, the world was always filled with love and sincerity. After a long time, Ning Tian sighed and couldn't help but sigh. The location of the Tianma cult in the god's domain is hidden too well, it seemed. In the god's domain, the Tianma cult wasn't as famous as the Tianma cult in the 9 regions. In this central star field where good and bad people mix together, the Tianma cult in the god's domain was just a nameless pawn. This also increased the difficulty of finding it in disguise. Let's look for it again, Luo Wuqing said faintly. Her eyebrows were slightly furrowed and she looked a little helpless. At this moment, in the crowd not far away, a familiar figure looked over. His eyes instantly lit up and he shouted loudly, "Patriarch, Patriarch, it's me! Husband, I seem to have heard someone calling you." Luo Wuqing frowned slightly. "You must have called the wrong person. Ignore it." Ning Tian waved his hand casually and said, "Let's go. Let's continue to ask around." Not far away, Old Su looked at Ning Tian and the others with a confused expression and scratched his head. They hadn't seen each other for a few years. Why was the patriarch ignoring them? "Senior brother Empty God, what's wrong? Did you meet someone you know? Hurry up. The 10,000 formation conference is about to start." Seeing Old Su's expression, the people beside him couldn't help but urge him to hurry up. "Okay." Old Su nodded slightly and shouted a few more times at the people in front of him. However, they still ignored him. In the end, he took a deep breath. "Do you think Old Su will give up just like that? Not at all." After Old Su took a deep breath, he shouted, "Patriarch Handsome." The moment the four-word mantra was uttered, whoosh! Ning Tian, who didn't react a moment ago, immediately turned around and looked at the empty God Emperor with a smile. "Aya, isn't this Old Su? We haven't seen each other for a few years, and you're still so humble." Seeing this, the empty God Emperor's face darkened. "As expected of you, Patriarch. You didn't react when I called you Patriarch. You only reacted when I called you handsome. Alright, this is very patriarch." Phew, the empty God Emperor took a deep breath and led the people around him towards Ning Tian and the others. "Patriarch, I didn't expect to meet you in the central starfield." At this moment 2 years had passed. Old Su had already broken through to the ancestor god realm. However, when he looked at Ning Tian, he still felt that the patriarch was unfathomable. It seemed like he couldn't see through the patriarch's cultivation all this time. He attributed it to the huge gap between them. "The patriarch is still your patriarch," he sighed inwardly. Most importantly, the patriarch's name had spread throughout the central starfield and even the entire Middle Continent region. The Heavenly Palace's patriarch was an expert in formations. To them, entering the deity realm might require them to slowly climb up from the bottom. However, to the patriarch, even if his strength hadn't reached the peak of the deity realm, his status was extremely close. "Patriarch, why have you come to the central starfield? Perhaps I can help." Old Su looked at Ning Tian. Chapter 532. "Oh, I'm just looking for the Tianma cult in the God domain." Upon hearing Old Su's words, Ning Tian calmly replied, "The Tianma cult in the God domain?" The empty God Emperor froze for a moment. He looked at the people around him and asked in confusion, "Does the Tianma cult have a force in the God domain?" "Senior brother Empty God, we're not sure about that." The rest of the people from the Empty God Palace shook their heads. They could tell that the Tianma cult was not a very famous force in the God domain. "Ancestral Master, it seems that I can't help you with this matter." Old Su spread his hands apologetically. "It's fine. In any case, I didn't expect you to help at all." Ning Tian waved his hand slightly. "Old Su, as expected of the Ancestral Master. He could choke you to death with just one sentence. What about you guys? What are you doing here?" Ning Tian looked at the empty God Emperor with a smile. "The 10,000 Formation Conference. The The empty God Emperor spat out these 4 words and then said slowly, "We're here to participate in the 10,000 Formation Conference. Ancestral Master, do you want to participate as well?" Senior Brother Empty God. Upon hearing the Empty God Emperor invite this unknown young man, the expressions of the people from the Empty God Palace changed slightly. They looked at Ning Tian and said, "Senior Brother Empty God, the 10,000 Formation Conference is not something that anyone can participate in. Although this young man is extremely handsome, being handsome doesn't mean that he's good at formations." Under Ning Tian's gaze, these people spoke the truth. "I'm not free." Ning Tian rejected them without even thinking about it. Right now, the most important thing was to find the Tianma cult. Although he did not know where it was, he could not waste his time on some random 10,000 Formation Conference. Dare triggered. Host participating in the 10,000 Formation Conference. Reward: Heaven and Earth Locator. However, at that moment, the system's voice rang out in his mind. A question mark slowly appeared in Ning Tian's mind. He sighed in his heart and silently said, "System, you've changed. You never gave me any system missions before." Sigh, as expected, the system is fickle. Trash system. The system said, "Host, this isn't a system mission, this is a dare." Ning Tian? Dare? Yeah. Is there only truth or dare in your family and no dare? The system said with a straight face. Then why didn't you say so earlier? Ning Tian wanted to roll his eyes at the system. The system, heh. Patriarch, are you not going to participate? If you get first place, you'll be able to get the blueprint of the Eternal Universe formation. That's a divine realm formation. Emperor Su Shen was stunned when he heard Ning Tian's rejection. This isn't right. How could the ancestors of the past not go when they saw the benefits? What did you just say? Hearing the blueprint of the divine realm formation, Ning Tian's eyes flashed and he looked at old Su with a smile. I said, if you get first place, you can. Old Su paused and thought that the patriarch didn't hear him clearly. However, before he could finish, he was interrupted by Ning Tian. I mean, the previous sentence? The previous sentence? Old Su was stunned and said, Patriarch, do you want to participate in the Myriad Formation Conference? Okay. However, this time, Ning Tian directly nodded. I'm not greedy for the Divine Realm formation. I just feel that I have some fate with the Eternal Universe formation. If it's not in my hands, it might be buried. Ahem, I understand. How can you say that you're greedy when it's fate? Old Su was the patriarch's old king after all. He immediately gave Ning Tian a look that said, I understand. Ah, that's right. Looks like you've learned a lot. Hee, that's right. These 2 years, I've been trying to understand the patriarch's path of shamelessness. I've finally scratched the surface. Wrong. This isn't the path of shamelessness. It's the path of righteousness. I see. Remember it well. Seeing Ning Tian and old Su putting their arms around each other's shoulders and laughing shamelessly, Luo Wuqing held her forehead helplessly. As expected, she couldn't stand her husband's shamelessness. As for old Su, she didn't even look at him. The Myriad Formation Conference. It was a grand event held once every 1,000 years in the Central Starfield. Most of the participants were Array Masters. The main purpose of the Myriad Formation Conference was that most forces in the Central Starfield needed Array Masters to set up their own formations. The Myriad Formation Conference was used to select the strongest Array Master. Although there were Array Masters in the 9 regions, their status was not as high as the Array Masters in the God Domain. The biggest difference between the God Domain and the 9 regions was that there was an additional type of divine power. This type of divine power complemented spiritual qi and provided more powerful energy. As for the major forces of the Central Starfield, they needed a powerful Array Master to set up an array formation that could absorb powerful divine power. Only with this kind of array formation could they increase their cultivation speed. The principle was similar to the heavenly fire formation that Ning Tian had set up in the fire domain. However, the heavenly fire formation was even more amazing. Not only could it provide divine power, but more importantly, it could also absorb the energy of the earth flame. The Myriad Formation Conference was held at the Myriad Formation Altar. The ground of the Myriad Formation Altar was filled with array marks. Even the surrounding walls were engraved with array marks. Waves of faint light were emitted. The surroundings were already crowded. All kinds of experts and cultivators were squeezed in this place that was hundreds of thousands of meters wide. Ning Tian and the others walked in slowly. Patriarch, this is where the Myriad Formation Conference is held. Old Su looked around and said to Ning Tian, although it looks small from the outside, it's quite big inside. Is this a void array? Ning Tian looked around. The array marks were emitting faint light. Soon, he frowned. Didn't the scene in front of him look a little familiar? If the array marks were removed, the entire building would look like a familiar place. Patriarch, you found it? Old Su smiled. The Primal Chaos Sacred Altar in the Primal Chaos Emperor City was built based on this place. After all, the Primal Chaos Sacred Altar and this place were built by the same Almighty. No wonder it looks familiar. I remember that your Void God Heaven Palace tricked 1,000,000 cultivators at the Primal Chaos Sacred Altar. Ning Tian rubbed his chin and said, Patriarch, that's you. Old Su's body trembled and the corner of his mouth twitched. Damn it, the Primal Chaos Sacred Altar was the beginning of his nightmare. No, it's you. Ning Tian looked at him kindly. Yes, it's me. Old Su gritted his teeth and took the blame. Speaking of which, who built this place? Ning Tian looked at Old Su curiously. Well, it's that existence. Old Su pointed at the top of the Myriad Formation Altar and said with a trace of reverence, he's the #1 array master in the central starfield. More importantly, he's the senior of our old friend. Chapter 533. Oh! The #1 array master in the central star area and the elder of an old acquaintance? Hearing this, Ning Tian raised his eyebrows slightly and a glint flashed in his eyes. He looked in the direction that Old Su was pointing at. Luo Wuqing and the Lion King also looked over. They saw a white-haired elder sitting high up in the 10,000 Rules Array altar. There were a few people around him. Ning Tian immediately recognized one of them. Old Emperor? Ning Tian raised his eyebrows. One of the people standing beside the white-haired elder was his old acquaintance, Di Wuji. I didn't expect the old emperor to have such a background. But it's normal. After all, the Wuji dynasty that Di Wuji was in was the #1 force in the firmament territory. There were many people from the Wuji dynasty who had gone to the deity plane. Yes, that's Di Tian, the first emperor of the Wuji dynasty. He single-handedly built the strongest human dynasty in the 9 regions. Later, he came to the deity plane and built the Myriad Palace. He became quite famous. Old Su nodded slightly. He was jealous as he spoke. Why was he so miserable when they both ascended from the 9 regions? The ancestral master in front of him was from the Heavenly Palace. With the 9 supremes of the Heavenly Palace protecting him, no force in the deity plane dared to attack him openly. Luo Wuqing was also the young mistress of the fire domain, one of the most powerful forces in the deity plane. Although the Myriad Palace that Di Wuji was in was not as powerful as the other 2, it was still a powerful force in the central star area. Not only was the Empty God Palace a mediocre force in the central star area, but he also had to run errands for the ancestral masters every day. As an empty god, he was once the king of kings in the 9 regions. Now that he had entered the deity plane, he had become a worker. Damn it, damn it! Roar! When the ceiling flame Lion King looked over, it was stunned. It rubbed its eyes with its paws. When it saw clearly, it couldn't help but growl in confusion. This white-haired old man, wasn't he the one it met at the entrance of the fire domain? Since that's the case, let's wait for the myriad formation assembly to begin. Ning Tian stretched lazily, then hugged his sweet-smelling wife and sat at the side. Old Su nodded slightly. According to the requirements of the 10,000 formation assembly, there was no need to register. If one had the ability, they could just go up. It had always been this simple and straightforward. On the high seat of the 10,000 spell altar. Gigi grandson, how's the 10,000 formation assembly going? The white-haired old man, who was also the first sovereign of the 9 regions' limitless divine dynasty and the current palace master of the myriad elephant palace, asked as he looked to the side. Ancestor, you can just call me Limitless. Di Wuji said respectfully when he heard Di Tian's words. The main reason was that every time his ancestor called him, it would take at least a minute. Di Wuji continued, I have already taken care of the matter regarding the 10,000 formation conference. I believe that many formation masters will participate. Yes, that's good. Di Tian nodded slightly. A glint flashed across his cloudy old eyes as he muttered, I hope that a powerful formation master will appear in this 10,000 formation assembly. I alone won't be able to open the 10,000 spirit demonic nest. Don't worry, Ancestor will have one. The people of the myriad elephant palace beside him said. I hope so. It's a pity that we can't invite that almighty. Otherwise, with him around, the demonic nest will definitely be opened easily. That almighty? Di Wuji was stunned. He was a little confused. It's a formation master. His attainment in formations is probably above mine. He alone set up a peerless formation that enveloped the entire fire region, Di Tian said slowly. A look of reverence appeared on his old face. It's a pity that we can't invite that almighty. He sighed slightly. There's actually such a almighty? Di Wuji raised his eyebrows slightly. He had been in seclusion for a while and had not heard of it. Yes, Ancestor. Then, let's wait for the formation to open. A few hours later. Ancestor, wake up. The 10,000 formation assembly is about to open. Old Su's voice sounded from the side. At this moment, Ning Tian was leisurely lying on Luo Wuqing's fair and tender legs. He narrowed his eyes and looked lazy. It's starting already? Ning Tian slowly opened his eyes. He stretched his back and stood up. Yes, Old Su nodded slightly. The people of the empty god palace curled their lip. Why could they only sit here while Ning Tian could rest on the legs of a beauty? This was unfair. At this moment, hundreds of thousands of cultivators had gathered at the 10,000 formation altar. All kinds of sky prides had gathered here. Welcome everyone to the 10,000 formation assembly. There are formations beneath your feet. Participants, please use your spiritual chi to activate the formations. Once the formations are activated, you are qualified to participate. On the high platform, Di Tian slowly stood up and looked at the crowd. It's Palace Master Di Tian. He's the #1 formation master in the central starfield. I heard that the formations beneath our feet were built by him. It's terrifying. Seeing Di Tian, the crowd started to discuss. Everyone's eyes were filled with respect. Following Di Tian's words, many participants started to circulate their spiritual chi. Soon, the formations lit up one by one. The number of participants increased. Look, it's Gongsun Xing from the Gongsun family. The Gongsun family is also a formation family. Gongsun Xing is the formation master of this generation's younger generation. I didn't expect him to be here too. It seems like the Gongsun family is determined to get the eternal universal array diagram. That's not necessarily true. There's also the genius of the Zhuge family, Zhuge Qinglian. With her around, Gongsun Xing is nothing. There are so many outstanding formation masters. It seems like the eternal universal array diagram is very attractive. Nonsense. That's an immortal state formation. It's said that old Master Tion once used this formation to kill 5 8-star heavenly gods. Who wouldn't want this kind of immortal state formation that contains powerful killing power? Terrifying, sounds of discussion could be heard everywhere. The formations lit up continuously. In just 10 minutes, tens of thousands of formations had been lit up. This meant that tens of thousands of formation masters were competing on the same platform. At this moment, Ning Tian's body was quietly covered by the light of the formation. Old Su, on the other hand, went back to his seat quietly. Senior brother Empty God, aren't you going to participate? The rest of the people from the Empty God Palace were also covered by the light of the formation. They looked at the Empty God Emperor, who had returned to his seat, and asked curiously, "Oh, I won't be participating," the Empty God Realm Emperor said quietly. What a joke! Since the Ancestral Master had gone up personally, why would he go up and cause trouble? He might as well find a good spot and enjoy the Ancestral Master's grand show. Chapter 534. In the 10,000 formation altar. Tens of thousands of array formations lit up at the same time. The number of participants this time is much more than before. I didn't waste my effort in taking out the eternal worldly array diagram. Tion stroked his beard in satisfaction when he saw this. To be honest, he felt a little heartache when he took out the ancient array diagram. But if they could open the 10,000 spirits demon nest, it would be fine. Phew, he took a deep breath and slowly scanned all the participants. When his gaze landed on a few juniors who had risen to fame in the field of array formations, he nodded in satisfaction. He only needed an array formation master who could work with him. As for these juniors, it was clear that they could. Suddenly, his eyes widened and a strange expression appeared on his face. His gaze fell upon Ning Tian's group. At that moment, the ancient tablet with the word Heaven hung on Ning Tian's waist, so he couldn't see it. Why do this lady and that lion look so familiar? Tian looked at Luo Wuqing. She was wearing a fiery red dress and had a cold expression on her face. She was too outstanding. As for that little lion, where did he see it before? Tian didn't recognize Luo Wuqing. After all, although Luo Wuqing was the young miss of the fire domain, she had just returned to the fire domain and had been in seclusion. She had never left the fire domain. As for the flame-sealing Lion King, it was about to go out to find a lioness. Naturally, it had to enlarge to satisfy the lioness and not its current mascot appearance. Strange, Tian muttered, but he quickly shifted his gaze. Old ancestor, what's wrong? Wuji looked at him curiously. Nothing. Tian waved his hand slightly and looked at the participants in the 10,000 formation altar. He slowly said, "Everyone, let's begin. The rules have always been simple and crude. Whoever has the strongest array formation will be first." As soon as he finished speaking, the people in the 10,000 formation altar began to discuss. If they wanted to determine whose array formation was the strongest, they would have to think carefully and use the array formation they were best at. "Everyone, let's begin." As Tian's voice fell, the tens of thousands of array masters below were not in a hurry to act. Instead, they were all chanting and preparing to use their strongest array to stun the crowd. "Humph! It's just a formation. This is my strongest formation. Watch carefully." The golden-haired Gongsun Xing snorted coldly. Spirit Qi surged in his hands as he began to think of his most powerful formation. Boom! At this moment, at the side, a terrifying array burst out, and the surrounding spiritual energy seemed to be sucked away. Instantly, it attracted the attention of many people. When they looked over, their expressions changed slightly. The cold and arrogant girl had already begun to prepare the embryonic form of the array. "It's Zhuge Qinglian," The Zhuge clan's genius. Humph, Zhuge Qinglian. This time, I won't lose to you. Gongsun Xing snorted coldly. The power of the array in his hand surged out, forming one array after another. However, the cold and arrogant Zhuge Qinglian simply ignored him. TSK. The Gongsun clan and Zhuge clan are going to have a battle of array formations again. Last time Gongsun Xing lost. I wonder if he can save some face this time? Many cultivators were ready to watch a good show. After all, the Gongsun clan and Zhuge clan were famous for their array formations in the central starfield. Most importantly, the two clans had never been on good terms. As time passed, many array masters began to think of their strongest array formations. Young Mistress Luo, why isn't Ancestral Master moving? Old Su had been looking at Ning Tian the whole time. Seeing that Ancestral Master was not moving, he could not help but feel puzzled. Just believe in your husband, Luo Wuqing said with a cold expression. Yes, Old Su nodded slightly and scratched his head. Could Ancestral Master be holding back for a big move? However, it was not what Old Su thought. It was. Ning Tian did not know how to use array formations at all. F***ck. I was too careless. Ning Tian's old face darkened as he stood on the competition array in a daze. It wasn't until the moment he stood up that he remembered that he didn't know how to use arrays at all. The Heavenly Fire array from last time and the Thunder Calamity array before that were all based on his own abilities and the system card. This time, he wanted to use a real array formation. He was done for. Could it be that Ancestral Master was going to fail? Random Event Function card has been activated. At this moment, the system's voice in his mind sounded like a life-saving straw. It sounded just in time. Is it coming? Could it be the attainment of an array master? Ning Tian was looking forward to it. Random Event Function card has been activated. Collective Silence card. If the host can't do it, no one else can do it either. Ning Tian was stunned. Collective silence? What was that? However, the system's voice had already ended. Collective Silence card activated. Whoosh. In an instant. Above tranquil sky, a light wave that only he could see was emitted. Then, like a wave, it spread out in all directions. Whoosh. Whoosh. The light wave circulated as if nothing had happened. Ning Tian furrowed his brows. However, at the next moment, many panicked voices could be heard. Crap! Why did the array that I spent so much effort to condense dissipate? Damn! Damn, my collective stripping array is extremely powerful. I almost succeeded in condensing it. Why did it dissipate? Well, why are all of you looking at me like that? I'm a decent person. This is strange. What's going on? When the light wave that only Ning Tian could see circulated, all the arrays that the surrounding array masters had cast dissipated in an instant. No matter how hard they tried, they could not cast the array. Even Zhuge Qinglian and Gongsun Xing furrowed their brows. They could not cast the array. What was going on? What's going on? On the high platform of the 10,000 array altar, D. Tian furrowed his brows and asked the group of participants below. We can't cast the array. That's right. The array that we spent so much effort to condense has mysteriously dissipated. Below, the group of participants said in confusion. We can't cast the array? D. Tian furrowed his brows. Yes. Zhuge Qinglian rarely spoke. She looked at D. Tian with her beautiful eyes and said softly, Palace Lord D. Tian, we can't cast the array. Why don't we have a rematch later? This, D. Tian furrowed his brows. Looking at the tens of thousands of participants, he was a little hesitant. It seemed like a rematch was the only option. Who said, we can't cast the array? At this moment, a chuckle was heard and instantly attracted everyone's attention. D. Tian, Zhuge Qinglian, Gongsun Xing, and the rest looked over. It was a young man with a smile on his face. He was raising his hand slightly. It seemed like he was about to cast the array. Chapter 535. Under everyone's gaze, Ning Tian's lips curled into a smile. He finally understood how to use the collective silence card. Interrupt the array. Stop the array. Since he didn't know how to cast a powerful array, it was simple. He just had to make sure that none of the participants could cast a single array. You can cast an array? Di Tian frowned and looked at Ning Tian. At this moment, everyone's eyes were on Ning Tian. It had to be said that this young man's appearance was enough to make them gasp in amazement. In this world, was there really such a handsome man? On the high platform, Di Wuji also saw Ning Tian, but he didn't say anything. He knew in his heart that since the ancestral master appeared here, he must be doing something big. He couldn't disturb the ancestral master. Of course. Ning Tian smiled confidently. Following that, a huge amount of spirit energy was channeled out, as if he was about to condense an extremely terrifying array. What a huge amount of spirit energy! Could it be that this kid is also an array master? Seeing this, Di Tian narrowed his eyes slightly, and a trace of seriousness flashed across his eyes. From the way Ning Tian channeled his spirit energy, this guy was obviously an array master. Around them, Zhuge Qinglian, Gongsun Xing, and the other participants looked over with serious expressions. Ning Tian's ability to channel his spirit energy was far more terrifying than theirs. Could it be that he was really going to cast the most powerful array? Phew, there was a burst of exhalation from the surroundings. Everyone was looking forward to it. All of you, watch carefully. Ning Tian's lips curled into a confident smile. The spirit energy in his hands surged, and his robes fluttered in the wind. The surrounding spirit energy surged towards him. The surrounding wind whistled, and the spirit energy surged. Gulp. Seeing this scene, the surrounding people swallowed their saliva. Was it coming? Everyone's eyes suddenly lit up. At this moment, wind and thunder surged, and spirit energy surged like the sea. All the strange phenomena appeared behind Ning Tian. Everyone's breathing began to unconsciously quicken. Even Di Tian couldn't help but look over. A golden light flashed and appeared in Ning Tian's hands. What an intense golden light! This array must be a divine realm array. Some experts began to suffocate. Golden light, it slowly dissipated. That is. Everyone couldn't wait to look at the place where the golden light had dissipated. Their eyes were wide open and their breathing was rapid. Their eyes were filled with anticipation, and they saw a mini array of tens of centimeters in size appear in Ning Tian's hand. The formation appeared. The surroundings seemed to have fallen into a deathly silence. The light in everyone's eyes dimmed at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the corners of their mouths twitched. Ahahaha! This is my first time using a formation, so I'm not very familiar with it. Please forgive me. Ning Tian laughed heartily, looking completely harmless. Forgive your ass. Are you crazy? F*CK, the phenomenon is so F*king huge. You're telling me that your formation is only 10 centimeters long. Are you F*king kidding us? In an instant, the sound of cursing and swearing could be heard. Everyone gritted their teeth and looked at Ning Tian angrily. In one sentence, to explain Ning Tian's behavior just now, that was, the skill was gorgeous, beautiful, and full of special effects. However, after it was used, it had a critical hit of 41%. The founder could be said to have vividly displayed the phrase, not very damaging, but very insulting. At the side, Di Tian's old face darkened. I thought it would be very strong. So this is it? Gongsun Xing snorted with a look of disdain. I could use this kind of formation when I was 10 years old. That's right, that's right. I thought it would be very powerful. That's it? At the side, whispers could be heard. Zhuge Qinglian's originally expectant eyes also retracted and gradually became calm. Then may I ask, can you use a formation to surpass me now? Ning Tian dragged the 10-centimeter-long formation and looked at the group of contestants with a smile on his face. His tone was extremely tactful. As soon as he said that, the crowd fell silent. Everyone gritted their teeth and looked helpless. That's right, they couldn't use it. How infuriating! Clearly, any formation that they used would be stronger than this kid, but they couldn't use it. How infuriating! F***ck. That move of the founders is so powerful. If they can't use it, the founder can use it casually and win. It seems like the founder deliberately hid his strength to reveal such a small part of his formation. Old Su was indeed the old Dong Wang. He could always fill in the gaps with his own imagination. Damn it! Gong Sun Xing gritted his teeth and was exasperated. Di Tian, who was on the high platform, frowned slightly. If one looked at it this way, it was true that Ning Tian had won. However, what was the use of an array master who only knew the lowest level of array formations? This was a huge loss. I think I can use a formation now. I think I can too. At this moment, voices could be heard from the surroundings. Then, the power of the formation seemed to surge again. It seemed that the power of the collective silence card had lost its effect. They could use the formation again. Humph! Kid, let's see how arrogant you can be. You're just a big fool, handsome guy. Gong Sun Xing snorted coldly. Before he could finish his words, he met Ning Tian's gaze and instinctively changed his tone. What did I just say? Gong Sun Xing was stunned. He then shook his head slightly. Forget it. Let's use the formation first. At this moment, everyone continued to use the formation. Oh. Seeing this, Ning Tian frowned slightly. The collective silence card lost its effect so quickly? However, at this moment, a message entered his mind. After absorbing the message, he could not help but smile. I see. Then I hope that you guys can use more powerful formations. He looked at the group of people with a hint of mockery in his eyes. Several hours later, one by one, powerful formations emerged. Not bad. These formations are all very powerful. Di Tian looked over, and there was a flash of light in his eyes. In the end, his gaze fell on Gong Sun Xing and Zhuge Qinglian's formations. Their formations were very powerful, much more powerful than those around them. Humph! Zhuge Qinglian, I won't lose to you this time. Gong Sun Xing sneered and looked at Zhuge Qinglian in disdain. At this moment, their formations were hundreds of meters in size. The terrifying spiritual energy was circulating, emitting the power of their respective formations. As they were in the center of the formation, the power was exceptionally powerful. Both of your formations are not bad. Di Tian nodded slightly. Looking at their formations, it was a little difficult to choose. Both of them were very powerful, and it was hard to determine the winner. Actually, my formation is not bad either. At this moment, a hearty laugh rang out. Everyone looked over and saw that bastard from before, holding up the mini array that was 10 centimeters in size and looking at them with a smile. Kid, shut up. You think your puny spirit formation is worthy of being compared to ours? How can the light of a firefly compete with the light of the moon? Gong Sun Xing sneered. Around them, a group of contestants also cast their disdainful gazes. Every single one of them had a formation that was stronger than Ning Tian's. Sigh. These guys, their path is too narrow. Seeing this scene, Old Su sighed. As someone who had experienced it, he deeply felt it. Is that so? Who said that this is the extent of my array formation? Ning Tian looked at the group of people with a smile, and the 10-centimeter mini formation in his hand flickered. He smiled at the crowd. I wonder if you've ever heard of the saying, "Your array is my array?" That voice that carried a hint of ridicule caused everyone to be stunned. However, his next action made everyone's expression change greatly. They saw Ning Tian raising the mini formation in his hand, and spiritual energy surged out from his body. The mini formation in his hand constantly emitted the most powerful energy. For a moment, the color of the sky changed, and dark clouds shrouded the sky. The terrifying power of the formation began to emerge. Everyone looked over immediately. Then, an array that enveloped the entire altar appeared. It contained an infinite amount of energy. What you see in my hand is just a miniature version of my formation. It's just to let you see it clearly. Also, do you really think that you can use the formation without my permission? The formation that you're using, it's just nourishment for my formation. Ning Tian chuckled and then snapped his fingers. As soon as the sound was heard, the 10,000 formations shattered. Author's words, to fill in the blanks. Today's update is 10,500 words. Chapter 536. Boom, boom, boom. Dark clouds appeared in the sky and shrouded the entire 10,000 formation altar. At that moment, all the formation masters in the 10,000 formation altar were shocked. They clearly saw that when Ning Tian snapped his finger, the array in his hand instantly broke. What? The array that we spent so much effort to create is actually broken? Gongsun Xing, who had a smug look on his face, instantly changed. He looked at his feet helplessly. The array that he was so proud of couldn't even withstand a single blow. At the side, Zhuge Qinglian's pretty face was filled with seriousness. Her beautiful eyes fell on Ning Tian. Her eyes wandered, but her mind was filled with doubts. Who was this person? Boom. At that moment, everyone was confused. The array in their hands kept disappearing and condensing into a beam of energy that landed on Ning Tian's hand. At the same time, the array that shrouded the 10,000 formation altar became stronger and stronger. He is using the power of our array to strengthen himself? When they saw this scene, the tens of thousands of formation masters had a strange look on their faces. This is, on the 10,000 formation altar, Di Tian narrowed his eyes. His wrinkled face was filled with seriousness. He looked at Ning Tian and muttered to himself, using your own array as the array core and using other people's arrays as the array core. In this case, even if your array is too weak, you can use other people's power to become the strongest array. Also, just now, everyone was unable to create the array. Could it be that we are in his array domain? With his permission, everyone can create the array. However, this is also within his calculations. He is using everyone's array as the array core. At this point, Di Tian's face was filled with horror. It was as if a storm had set off in his heart. He had studied the Tao of array for hundreds of millions of years. However, he still hadn't comprehended the strongest array domain, which was the array domain. It was said that those who grasped the array domain could create an array with a raise of their hand. They could also break any array in the world with a flip of their hand. At that moment, everyone's horrified eyes fell on Ning Tian, who was controlling the lightning with a raise of his hand. The power of the array was constantly circulating under his feet. What is he doing? Gongsun Xing's face paled. Let me see how strong this formation is. Inside the heaven and earth array that enveloped the entire 10,000 spell array altar, Ning Tian activated the mini-array in his hand. A faint smile appeared on his face, and a glimmer of light flashed through his eyes. The information that just entered his mind was the collective silence card. Silence first, then invincibility. Silence everyone, and then use everyone's formation as a formation. Not only did I silence you, but I also used your array to shape my own array after I silenced you. I was able to unleash the power of murderous intent to the extreme. Boom, 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 as Ning Tian pressed down with the power of the array formation in his hand, the sky and earth shook. A boundless power suddenly blasted towards the 10,000 spell sacred altar. That power seemed to want to destroy the entire place. Not good. Get out of the way. Seeing that, how could Gongsun Xing, Zhuge Qinglian and the others possibly dare to stay where they were? However, before that aura descended, they immediately moved. Damn it. Could he dodge or not? Was he courting death? Ancestor, aren't you going to stop him? The 10,000 spell sacred altar will be destroyed by him. Seeing that, the few people from the myriad elephant palace who were on the high platform could no longer hold themselves back and hurriedly spoke to D. Tion. It's fine. D. Tion waved his hand. However, his eyes were blazing as he looked at the huge array formation that was descending. He slowly said, "The 10,000 spell sacred altar has this god's array formation. It won't be a problem for it to take on this attack. Moreover, it would be a pity if I don't witness the power of this array formation with my own eyes." Yes, yes, Ancestor. Hearing that, the few people from the myriad elephant palace could only nod their heads slightly. They were trembling with fear when they saw the power of the array formation. Could the Ancestor's 10,000 spell sacred altar really withstand it? Sigh. At the side, Di Wuji sighed softly. Following that, he took out a small book and seemed to be calculating something. Wuji, what are you doing? Di Tian frowned and looked over. Ancestor, I'm just calculating how many spirit coins it would take to rebuild the 10,000 spell sacred altar. Di Wuji had always been calm. Therefore, he had already started calculating the cost of rebuilding the 10,000 spell sacred altar. This was because he knew that the person who cast this array formation was the Ancestor. Di Tian? Ancestor, the array formation is descending. F***CK, F***CK. What a huge golden light. At that moment, the few people from the myriad elephant palace suddenly shouted. There was a hint of panic in their voices. What are you panicking for? Look at how ignorant you are. Isn't it just a little golden light? Don't tell me that it can destroy this god's 10,000 spell sacred altar? Seriously? Di Tian looked as if he expected better from them. Then, he turned his head and looked over. F***CK. F***CK. What the hell is this? At that moment, Di Tian's intestines turned green with regret. He saw, the moment he turned his head, the array formation exploded. Golden light filled the sky and illuminated the entire 10,000 spell sacred altar. Following that, the array formation below the 10,000 spell sacred altar was also assimilated and turned into a force that blasted over. Di Tian's eyes widened when he saw this scene. F***CK. This god's defensive array formation was assimilated by this array formation and turned into a destructive force. Wow! Golden legend. Seeing this scene, the few people from the myriad elephant palace widened their eyes. What the F***CK is golden? This god's 10,000 spell sacred altar is gone. F***CK. Di Tian's heart ached. He wanted to cry but had no tears. Ancestor, don't panic. I'm here. At that moment, a hand landed on his shoulder and a calm voice sounded in his ears. Di Tian turned his head and looked at Di Wuji. Wuji, you're still the best, however. Before he could finish his sentence, Di Wuji's voice sounded again. Ancestor, I've calculated. Rebuilding the 10,000 spell sacred altar will only cost about 300 billion spirit coins. It's not expensive. F***CK. At that moment, Di Tian cried out loudly. Boom, boom, boom. The golden light fell and the entire 10,000 spell sacred altar was drowned in the golden light. Waves of dust flew up and a series of explosions sounded continuously. Around tens of thousands of cultivators stood in the void and looked at this scene with lingering fear. If this attack landed on their heads, the consequences would be unimaginable. Roar, roar, not far away, the ceiling flame lion king in the sky roared excitedly. The Ancestor was indeed the Ancestor. He said that he wouldn't destroy it, but he destroyed it the moment he arrived. What a terrifying attack! Old Su broke out in cold sweat and couldn't help but sigh. At the side, Luo Wuqing's expression remained calm. below, in the 10,000 spell sacred altar. Oh no, it should be a ruin now. The 10,000 spell sacred altar no longer existed. When the thick layer of dust dissipated, a figure quietly appeared. Instantly, everyone's eyes narrowed. He was actually safe and sound after this attack. Ahaha! Sorry, this is my first time using an array formation. I didn't grasp it well. After the dust settled, Ning Tian's soft laughter resounded in the surroundings. Chapter 537. For a moment, after a moment of silence, the surrounding cultivators gritted their teeth and glared at Ning Tian. This brat must be deliberately angering them. You're telling me that this is your first time using an array formation? Are you kidding me or are you playing with me? The first time he used it, he flattened such a huge 10,000 formations altar and even created a few large pits. This is his first time using it? It was already good enough that their first array formation could destroy a small tree branch. And this brat, his first time using it, blew up the 10,000 formations altar that was hundreds of thousands of square meters. Was this reasonable? However, they really misunderstood Ning Tian. This was really the first time he had used an array formation. This time, the system only gave him one method, and the rest were all based on his own understanding. Hiss! He actually destroyed this god's 10,000 formations altar. Tian swallowed his saliva. Other than the pain in his heart, he looked at Ning Tian with more shock. Now, I should be the winner, right? Ning Tian stood on the ruins and raised his head slightly. The sun shone on his face and he revealed a harmless smile as he looked at Tian, who was not far away. At this moment, no matter how kind this smile was, everyone felt strange because this seemingly harmless young man in front of them had personally blown up the entire 10,000 formations altar. You, who exactly are you? There is no array formation expert like you in the Central Star region. Tian looked at Ning Tian with a serious expression. Even his tone had changed. The moment he said that, the surrounding gazes of Gongsun Xing, Zhuge Qinglian and the others all looked over. The attainments of formations displayed by this young man were far, far stronger than theirs. Even the arrogant Gongsun Xing had no choice but to submit at this moment. Me? He's just a nobody, Lin Feng said. Ning Tian chuckled and said casually. The ancestor was not someone who liked to act cool, so he planned to run after acting cool. How exciting! A nobody? Tian rolled his eyes. However, at this moment, a gentle breeze blew past, causing Ning Tian's black clothes to flutter. The ancient tablet on his waist also emitted a faint glow under the sunlight, instantly attracting everyone's attention. That is a heavenward ancient tablet. At this moment, the wind stopped and everyone was stunned. Everyone stood rooted to the ground as if they had been petrified. His mind raced and he finally came up with two words: Heavenly Palace. In the realm of the gods, who didn't know about the Heavenly Palace? Although Heavenly Palace didn't often appear in the eyes of the people of the divine realm, it still didn't change the fact that Heavenly Palace was one of the strongest forces in the divine realm. And the Heavenly Ancient Tablet was the best symbol of the Heavenly Palace's people. No one dared to doubt the authenticity of this ancient tablet because no one dared to fake it. He is from the Heavenly Palace. He also knows how to set up formations, and that lion. And the young miss of the fire domain. He is the patriarch of the Heavenly Palace. Tian's mind raced, and after connecting all the dots, he came up with such a conclusion. That day, when he brought the experts of the Myriad Elephant Palace to the fire domain to investigate, the lion that he met was probably the one in front of him. The patriarch of the Heavenly Palace. The patriarch of the Heavenly Palace who recently rose to fame. So it's him. The patriarch of the Heavenly Palace built a heaven and earth great array that covers the entire fire domain. SSS. I didn't expect that we would be able to fight with such a powerful person. This is simply the fortune of 3 lifetimes. To be able to fight with such a powerful person, even if I die, I will have no regrets. TSK. Damn, you want to die just because you said so? At this moment, everyone around was excited. The haze of losing to Ning Tian was swept away, and they were more excited. Losing to such a powerful person was also a kind of pride. Gongsun Xing and Zhuge Qinglian looked on with complicated expressions, especially the former. He looked down on Ning Tian so much just now, and now his face was flushed red. Sigh, today's wind is really noisy. Ning Tian stood on the ruins and sighed. He didn't know where the wind came from, but it insisted on him acting cool. This feeling was very annoying. You have completed the Dare Challenge. Reward: Heaven and Earth Locator. You have shocked Di Tian. You have shocked Gongsun Xing. You have shocked Zhuge Qinglian. You have shocked a group of nameless cultivators. Reward: Talent Skill. Formation Eye. Introduction. The host can use the Eye of Array to see through all array formations and analyze the array's weakness, strength, and blueprint. In his mind, the system's voice sounded. The Heaven and Earth Locator was already lying quietly in the storage ring. As for the Eye of Array, it can see through all array formations? Ning Tian muttered. The system didn't reward him with the Tao of Array Formations. It seemed like he still needed to comprehend it himself. His current Tao of Array Formations was completely at the entry level. It was all based on the experience he gained from using the array formations given by the system. However, now that he had the Eye of Array Formations, it should be easier to comprehend the Tao of Array Formations. Heavenly Palace's ancestral master. At this time, Di Tian's voice slowly sounded and landed on Ning Tian's body. His tone became respectful. He couldn't see through Ning Tian's cultivation, but he knew the strength of the 9 Supremes of the Heavenly Palace. The young man in front of him was called the Heavenly Palace's ancestral master. His strength must be on the same level as the 9 Supremes of the Heavenly Palace. However, the reason why he had such a misconception was because a certain little lion wrote the words Heavenly Palace's ancestral master on that day. You don't have to call me that. Just call me Ancestral Master. Ning Tian looked at Di Tian with a smile. Since this old man was willing to call him that, he might as well call him by the simplest title. Yes, Ancestral Master. Di Tian nodded slightly. Then, without wasting any time, he directly took out a scroll from his storage ring and handed it to Ning Tian. Ancestral Master, this is the array formation blueprint of the eternal diagram of heaven and earth. He didn't care that Ning Tian was participating in the competition with such a powerful identity. What he needed was someone with strong array formation skills. The stronger, the better. Not bad. Ning Tian was very satisfied with the efficiency. After silently keeping it, he directly threw it into his storage ring. He couldn't learn it for the time being. Then, he looked at the person behind Di Tian. Old Emperor, long time no see. He chuckled softly. Yes, Ancestral Master, long time no see. Di Wuji nodded slightly. His eyes were still filled with respect when he looked at Ning Tian. After not seeing him for 2 years, the Ancestral Master was still so ridiculously strong. You know each other? Seeing the two chatting happily, Di Tian couldn't help but be stunned. We're old friends. Ning Tian smiled. I see. Di Tian nodded slightly. However, at this moment, he didn't pay too much attention to this matter. He still needed Ning Tian's help. He looked at Ning Tian and said, Ancestral Master, I have a request. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.